Good morning. I now convene the February 8th and 9th, 2024 meeting of the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. Due to the recent amendments to the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act for teleconference meetings, Commission members who are attending the meeting via teleconference will need to disclose if any other individuals 18 years of age or older are present in the room at the remote location, and the general nature of the member's relationship with any such individuals. Are there any disclosures for members attending via Zoom? Do we have any members attending via Zoom?
Hi, this is Commissioner Yuzoff. I will be attending the meeting teleconference from a remote location. I don't have anyone 18 of age in my presence.
Thank you. We can't see it on the large screen up here.
This is Commissioner Kimberly White-Smith, and I too am attending remotely, and I do not have anyone 18 years or younger or older in my office at this time.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, this is Commissioner Susan Heredia. I too am participating remotely today. And I do not have anyone in the house 18 years and older.
Thank you. Any other participants on Zoom? Yes, please.
Good morning, Aida Rodriguez, State Board Member, and I do not have anyone 18 or older participating in the room.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. Commissioners who are participating via Zoom must be visible at all times on camera. Please log off Zoom if you need to leave the meeting and log in when you're ready to join the meeting. If you experience broadband or internet connectivity problems while participating in the meeting, that would be remedied by joining without video. You must announce the reason for your non-appearance when you turn off your camera. We will now take the roll call. Recording Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Nanette Brown.
Here.
Catherine Williams Brown.
Here.
Jose Cardenas.
Present.
Cheryl Cotton. Juan Cruz.
Here.
Christopher Davis.
Present.
Michael De La Torre. Anna Marie Francois. Makita Bueno Shire.
Present.
Megan Gross.
Present.
Johanna Howick.
Present.
Susan Aradia.
Present.
Bonnie Clark. Ira Litt. Monica Martinez.
Here.
Shireen Povery.
Present.
David Simmons. Fang Yuzoff.
Present.
Kimberly White-Smith.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Hartwig, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I would like to begin by introducing Dr. Fang Yuzoff, who is the new teacher representative on the commission. Dr. Yuzoff, an educator with a rich 18-year tenure, traces her roots to the city of San Francisco. Her commitment to education and fervent advocacy for reform were nurtured during her formative years in school, laying the foundation for a lifelong passion in education. As a Teach for America alum, Dr. Yuzoff embodies the essence of making a transformative impact on students' lives. Commencing her teaching journey with the Los Angeles Unified School District, she currently serves as a STEAM and computer science specialist for kindergarten through 5th grade in the El Segundo Unified School District. Her academic prowess is highlighted by her doctoral research entitled Virtual School Teacher Science Efficacy Beliefs, the Effects of Community Practice on Science Teaching Efficacy Beliefs. As a science lead technology teacher / next generation science standards mentor for Richmond Street Elementary, she spearheads initiatives to enhance science education. An advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion in science and STEAM teaching, Dr. Uzoff has conducted professional learning opportunities and presented at various national and international STEAM conferences. Her commitment extends to the forefront of technology, where she currently serves as an AI advisory member for her school district, aiming to raise awareness about the responsible and effective use of AI in education. Dr. Uzoff earned a doctorate in learning technologies from Pepperdine University, a master's degree in elementary education from Loyola Marymount University, and a bachelor's degree in psychology from San Francisco State University. Good morning and welcome, Commissioner Uzoff. Would you like to say a word or two?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I'm excited to meet everyone and be a part of this journey. Thank you.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing you in person soon. Next, I would like to announce the appointments for the 2024 Executive Committee. The committee includes Jose Cardenas, who will chair the Educator Preparation Committee, Johanna Hartwig, the Professional Practices Committee, Juan Cruz, the Fiscal Policy and Planning Committee, Bonnie Klatt, the Legislative Committee, David Simmons, the Certification Committee, and Danette Brown, the Appeals and Waivers Committee. Thank you to all of you for stepping up to the plate. I would like to remind everyone about the meeting procedures before we get to today's agenda. This meeting is being conducted at the Commission office and via teleconference. We have commissioners participating from the Commission building and also via Zoom. The public has the option to attend the general session of the meeting at the Commission office or participate remotely through Zoom webcast or U.S. toll-free phone number. And I'm missing page 4. Hang on. Individuals who attend the meeting at the Commission office will need to submit a request to address the Commission card to the meeting moderator. The meeting moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak. At that time, the individual will be able to approach the microphone and share their comment. Individuals who join the meeting via the Zoom webcast will need to click on the raised hand icon to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The moderator will notify the individual when it is their turn to speak by calling their Zoom ID. At that time, the individual will be prompted to unmute their microphone and will be able to share their comment. The Zoom ID name used by the member of the public to join the Zoom meeting will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. Individuals who join the meeting through the U.S. toll-free number will need to press *9 on their phone to inform the meeting moderator that they would like to speak on the item. The moderator will notify the individuals it is their turn to speak by calling their phone number and will allow them to unmute their telephone. At that time, the individual will be prompted to press *6 and will be able to share their comment. Please note, only a partial phone number will be displayed to the public when the individual provides public comment. Each of our committee chairs will have the discretion to set a time limit on comments depending on the volume of speakers seeking to speak on a particular item. We ask that you keep your remarks brief and focused on the particular item you are speaking to. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. After the meeting, the archived audio and video will be available via the Commission's website. Agenda item 2A is the approval of December 2023 minutes. We will now open for public comment. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
We have no public comments.
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do I have a motion to approve the December 2023 commission meeting minutes?
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Davis. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Brown. Thank you. Any discussion? Will the recording secretary please call for the vote?
Danette Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
Cheryl Cotton, Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Makita Gwinnett Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howard,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Fong Yuzoff,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. The next item is 2B, approval of the February 2024 agenda. We have an agenda insert 2C. Commissioners, I'd like to start the Educator Preparation Committee no later than 10:15. So please keep that in mind as you give your reports. We will now open for public comment. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
Any public comments?
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do I have a motion to approve the February 2024 agenda? I have a motion by Commissioner Hartwick, and I have a second by Commissioner Martinez. Any discussion? Will the recording secretary please call for the vote?
Danette Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Makita Gwinnett Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howard,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Fong Yuzoff,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. Agenda item 2C is approval of the February 2024 consent calendar. We will now open for public comment. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
We do not have any public comments.
Thank you. The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any items they would like to consider in closed session? Yes, Commissioner Cruz.
Number 49.
Thank you.
Could you share the name associated with that number?
David Harp.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hartwig.
I would like to consider number 91, Tamiko Pearson. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Yes.
I'd like to consider number 15, Robert Bryan Jr., and recuse myself from number 71, George Maria.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Davis?
I have a series of recusals.
Yes.
Number 56, Jennifer Johnson. Number 105, Jose Ramirez. Number 118, Starkeisha Royston. And number 147, Michael Young.
Was that 147?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Do I have a motion to approve all remaining items on the consent calendar? Yes, Commissioner Martinez. Thank you. Do I have a second? Yes, Commissioner Brown. Thank you. Will the recording secretary please call for the vote?
Danette Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
Cheryl Cotton,
Aye.
Juan Cruz,
Aye.
Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Makita Gwinnett Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Howard,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Fong Yuzoff,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. Well, Happy New Year. Welcome back. I hope you all had a restorative and joyful holiday. Let me begin my remarks this morning with a tradition we've developed around this table of offering congratulations to one of our colleagues. The American Association of Colleges for Teacher Education has selected Dr. Kimberly White-Smith as the 2024 recipient of the AACTE Edward C. Pomeroy Award for outstanding contributions to teacher education. This award recognizes outstanding contributions to educator preparation either through distinguished service to the field or through the development and promotion of outstanding practices in educator preparation at the collegiate, state, or national level. The award is named in honor of former AACTE Executive Director Edward C. Pomeroy, who served from 1952 to 1980. Dr. White-Smith will be presented with the award during AACT's 2024 annual meeting next week in Denver, Colorado. Please join me in congratulating Commissioner White-Smith. As you know, February marks Black History Month, a tradition that began in the Jim Crow era and that was officially recognized in 1976 as part of our nation's bicentennial celebrations. This year, the theme is African Americans and the Arts. As noted by staff at the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C., African American artists, poets, writers, visual artists, and dancers have historically served as change agents through their crafts. This month, the museum highlights the art of resistance and the artists who use their crafts to uplift the race, speak truth to power, and to inspire a nation. Speaking truth to power and inspiring our nation seem particularly important goals to me as the 2024 presidential election season heats up and attacks on public education, PK3 through 12, PK12 through higher education, continue with an intensity and frequency that seem unprecedented. As commissioners, I know we take such scrutiny and attacks on public education very seriously, and we do what we can from where we sit to continue to speak truth to power to support the critical work of educator preparation. When I think about what we do around this table, I think about the song Teach Your Children Well by Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And yes, I know I'm showing my age right now, but bear with me while I make this connection. While all of our agenda items are important, I want to highlight one in particular. Item 4B, discussion and proposed adoption of the California standards for the teaching profession. As you've read in the agenda item, before us today is discussion and potential adoption of the revised 2024 California standards for the teaching profession. The staff have done an exceptional job of providing the history, context, and rationale for CSTP, and I thank them. I also appreciate the expert work group who recommended these standards for our consideration and potential adoption today. This item supports our recently adopted strategic plan. You would call this, in particular, our vision statement. Driven by equity and justice, California's educators engage in culturally sustaining practices to create learning opportunities that promote each student's academic, social, emotional, and physical growth. This North Star guides what we do around this table and what our colleagues do as they prepare the next generation of educators, and the 2024 draft CSTP are an integral part of this work. Rigorous preparation for future educators is essential so that they can teach our children and grandchildren well, so in the future they may develop and become competent, informed, and caring citizens. Thank you. Executive Director Sandy.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for those inspiring words to start us off. Good morning, commissioners. It's great to see you in person here in 2024. And our colleagues that are in the room and on Zoom, welcome to the first meeting of 2024. We've got a great lineup of the leadership team over here paying very close attention. So it's really a pleasure to be here today. So first thing I'd like to do is introduce Mr. Brian Lynn Walsh. All you have to do is stand, if you will, Brian, for now, because you'll be at the table shortly. Brian Lynn Walsh came to join us in January as our new director of the Administrative Services Division. You may recall that Bridget Hansen retired in December, and Brian came right on, almost seamless. We had about a week, and then he was here and hit the ground running. So Brian comes to us from the Department of Human Resources, Cal HR, where he was a senior labor relations officer responsible for negotiating bargaining unit contracts and resolving labor disputes with the Service Employees International Union and the Union of American Physicians and Dentists. Prior to his time at Cal HR, Brian served as a labor relations officer at the Department of Motor Vehicles from 2014 to 2020, overseeing the department's labor relations and health management programs. Brian was a labor relations specialist at the DMV from 2012 to 2014, was a labor relations analyst at the Employment Development Department from 2010 to 2012. Brian held several other positions at the Employment Development Department from 2006 to 2010, including staff services analyst and associate personnel analyst. Brian and his partner enjoy fishing, camping, and exploring California with their 2 children, Darian and Ellie. Welcome, Brian, to the team. We also have some new hires and some promotions that have occurred within the building. 7 individuals within the agency have moved into other positions, and we've made, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 new hires, 3 of them in the Division of Professional Practices, 6 of them in the Certification Division, 1 in the Legal Office, and 1 in IT. Really, really helpful to be able to bring the staff in to help us meet our mission and objectives. So the third thing I'd like to just announce to you, and this is a very exciting announcement, is that our Title V regulations establishing the preschool through grade 3 teaching credential have been approved. So Title V regulations, I mean, that is a labor of love and a long labor of love with attorneys who are meticulous. They don't want one word undefined in your regulations. And this was a big reg package. And you all remember what our work in 2022 was like to develop the whole concept and get those regs moving. So, my optimism said, maybe we can get those done in 6 months. The truth is it took a year, as everybody predicted that it would, but they are adopted, which means this credential may now be issued, which means that programs that are in the queue and ready for approval and ready for implementation may move forward, and we may begin opening the gates to people moving forward to get the April 1st. Okay, I'm sorry. It's April 1st. One more delay. Okay, well, I'm a bureaucrat by trade, but not by nature. Okay, so there we go. Very exciting opportunity here. We built a new credential, and it is now in place, and it is addressing the needs and expectations for teachers of our youngest children as they transition into public schools. And I'm very excited to see what happens next with that. And congratulations, commissioners. Thank you for your patience on that. So the final thing I'd like to do in my report is what I usually do at the first meeting of the year, which is to announce some large, broad goals and milestones that we hope to meet in this calendar year. And I've got 13 of them. I should have come up with a 14th one, but there it is. I'm on my 13th year, so maybe this is appropriate. So first, we plan to continue developing our roadmap to a teaching credential, and you will get an update on that this year. This is a very exciting piece of work that Erin Skubel in our certification division and her team have been leading to create a whole new narrative about how you enter the profession and earn a credential. It's very exciting work that's under development there. Secondly, and today's the day for it, or, depending on your will, it may be April, but is that we adopt the updated California standards for the teaching profession and support the field of technical assistance to get them implemented. Third, that we begin the process of certifying teacher preparation for multiple subject education specialist and pre-K through 3 credential programs pursuant to Senate Bill 488. This is to certify that they're meeting the standards that have been adopted by the commission. Fourth is to complete work on the child development permit. We're going to hear an update on that tomorrow. We will need to then initiate the Title V regulation process, and that'll take its own sweet time again, and then provide support to the field with technical assistance to support implementation. We also, as you know from last year's work, completed development of the California Formative Teaching Performance Assessment, which was built as a tool for use in child development permit programs. And our goal for this year with that is to get it into the field and to work with community colleges on how they might use this tool in their coursework and their clinical work, preparing people to work in the early childhood space. So now that Title V regulations have formally established the PK3 Early Childhood Specialist credential, we will be moving forward with the approval and implementation of credential programs leading to this credential. Seventh, we are, as per your direction in December, planning to convene a performance assessment work group to review the structure of performance assessments and best practices and challenges we're facing in implementation, also to look for ways to strengthen and ensure reliability and scoring of that system. Eighth, we are going to pilot 7 forms of the literacy performance assessment that Amy Rising and her team have been working with a design team to construct. That will begin this spring. The pilot will be in this spring. We'll also be piloting the pre-K through 3 credential math cycle, which in this year, and both of those will be ready for field testing in 2025. Ninth, we plan to update the subject matter requirements, and we'll have some information for you on our budget update coming soon. We've got work to do on organizing our subject matter requirements so that the transcript review can be as well supported as possible. Transcript review that's allowed for meeting the subject matter requirement. 10th, we plan to implement the proposals that are approved in the budget bill and through legislation this year. And 11th, we plan and hope to successfully transition in a couple of months to our new building and workspace over on Richards Boulevard and 7th Street. 12th, we plan to complete and implement an update of the educator credential system, which is our online platform for application processing and pretty much everything we do moving to the online space. We have a large effort underway that involves all of our divisions and departments and our IT staff with Amarjad Baring's leadership. And finally, 13th, we plan to really dig into implementation of the Commission's new strategic plan. And those are the priorities we expect to launch and make progress on this year. That concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Executive Director Sandy. We look forward to our collective work on your goals, on the Commission's goals. Do any commissioners have items to report? Commissioner Brown.
Good morning, everyone, and hallelujah, it's so exciting what's going on for ECE. So I will be brief, but just say that it's very exciting for our early childhood educators to really continue our journey towards full membership into the CTC community. I wanted to highlight that this winter and spring, some pretty special things are happening, and I was able to, and Renee, you were virtually able to participate in the first of 2 days of convening sessions with the CSUs. Thank you very much for hosting this. There were 19 of the 22 CSUs there wanting to look at the PK-3 with a credential with a focus on early literacy and also on collaboration with the community colleges, partnership, and the LEAs. And as it convened, there were lots of us that were there in person, which was terrific. And also, it just elevated everyone's interest in moving forward. So this news today is just terrific. The second day will happen on one of our commission days, April 19th, where the focus will be more on early math. rather than early literacy. Both of those are really important. And all of the attendees were encouraged to bring their community college and LEA partners to the second one as well. I won't get into more detail about that, but also there's a PK3 Leadership and Teacher Education Conference coming up in another week. And also Stanford is convening the first part of May, a one-day conference on early math as the DREAM Network refines its work. So lots of good things are happening, and it's more than about time, but it's great news. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have items to report? Yes, Commissioner Francois.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say how excited I am to be back at this table again. You all are even more beautiful in person than you are on Zoom. My goodness. I want to share Commissioner Brown's enthusiasm for this report about the P3 credential being approved. As I shared with you, the UC system has developed a statewide I can now call it a P3 credential program, housed at Merced, UCLA, and Berkeley. And I think that I just heard an audible cheer from those campuses, and y'all just made me a hero. So thank you very much for that. I have 3 items, and one of my New Year's resolutions is that I'm writing myself notes now, because I've heard Chair Grinnell Shire say, we're gonna start at such and such time. And I look at my clock and I'm like, Anna Marie, you're not gonna finish by that time. So now I have my note. My first item is, as you may recall, the UC-CSU Collaborative for Neuroscience, Diversity, and Learning was established to promote evidence-based and inclusive teaching practices. My fellow Commissioner Pavri and I have mentioned this at every single meeting. We want you all to be informed. And she's given me the opportunity to give the report today. The collaborative is designed to be a statewide resource hub to support in-service and pre-service educator learning, and 2, to facilitate collaboration across the educational ecosystem to create conditions necessary for educators to support diverse learners. And so in the spirit of that, the collaborative has just released a request for proposals seeking faculty and interdisciplinary teams of researchers from both the UC and the CSU's systems to advance new theories and evidence-based practices for sharing on the collaborative online learning hub. Proposals are due Monday, April 1st. There's an information session on Friday, February 16th, which is right around the corner. And you can see all of this information on last Friday's PSD e-news. I just encourage everyone, if you have folks that think that you believe can contribute to the development of these modules, this is of critical importance, as Commissioner Gross will tell you, for our K-12 educators in order to serve the needs of neurodiverse learners. So please check out the website. The other thing that I was happy to read or have highlighted is the announcement of the statewide Residency Technical Assistance Center in the CTC News this past week. The commission awarded Santa Clara County Office of Education the award, and the partners include Humboldt, Sacramento, San Diego, and Tulare County Offices of Education as regional hubs, and the California Teacher Residency Lab, Ed West, and the UCLA Teacher Education Program as the research practice policy partner. I know you all read that in the e-news, but I wanted to highlight it because it is this kind of intersegmental collaboration that is required, not optional, but required for us to accomplish our goals in advancing teaching and learning in the state. And this is just one more example of that. And so I'm excited to share that most UC campuses host residency programs in a range of certification areas. I would read all of them, but I'm mindful of my time. But all of them focus on preparing novice teachers with the content expertise, high leverage pedagogical skills, and critical dispositions while increasing teacher diversity in this state. And so I want to give a shout out to those campuses: UC Santa Barbara, UC Santa Cruz, UC San Diego, UC Irvine, UC Berkeley, in UCLA. We are covering the entire state in teacher residencies and wrapping them all in speaking truth to power, as our chair stated this morning. And lastly, I want to report on our efforts to support Prop 28, Arts and Music in School. You're also reminding me this morning that we need to do what we can where we stand. And Prop 28 is a historical investment in arts and education in schools. And so UCLA, in the spirit of doing what we can where we stand, we're hosting a free one-day conference inspired by the teachings of Sir Ken Robinson and the promise of Prop 28, titled Imagine If, Powering Learning Through Creativity in the Arts. This conference, again, intersegmental in development. It's going to bring together K-12 teachers, arts educators, principals, district leaders, and museum and community arts partners to learn together, make connections, and co-construct actionable ways to make the promise of Prop 28 a reality. Please contact me for more information. Y'all are invited to join. It's going to be a roaring good time of professional learning and also maybe answering some of these questions that we continue to have around Prop 28. So concludes my report. I'm so happy to see y'all.
I think her hand was, okay. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So excited about the movement with our early learning credentialing processes. We have been championing and moving forward with our work around universal pre-K and universal TK. And the credentialing is the other piece to this, to make sure that we have folks who are ready to developmentally support our students, our youngest learners. So just excited about this work. I know that there's still work ahead, but excited about this movement forward. Also really excited today to engage in the conversation around and to hear a little bit more about the governor's budget and our focus around Prop 28 and what this credentialing will look like. It is a necessary conversation. It is engaging across our field. And so just really excited to be able to start to have that conversation here with the commission, as I know the conversations are happening everywhere else in our schools and in our colleges as well. I do want to just give a quick update and highlight. I've been doing this with you guys about our national board certifications. So just some information. So we had our application process closed recently. One thing I wanted to share is that 53% of the teachers who are moving through this incentive program are teachers of color. 53%. In December of 2022, 76% of California teachers that became national board certified were recipients of the national board subsidy as well. So people are using this, and this is making a difference in our classrooms, in the field. There's also been a 9% growth in national board certified teachers working in high priority schools from year 1 to year 2. So we're seeing growth. We're seeing this. I would love to see more, but I'll take 9% if we can keep building on that. Also, the California National Board Certification Subsidy, it just recently closed in mid-January, but we received 2,396 applications. So there are more folks coming to National Board, engaging in this process, interested in this. I love it because it means that our most qualified teachers will be with our highest needs students, and that is exciting for me. And as of Friday, February 2nd, a total of 2,008 candidates have been funded through this national board cycle for 23-24. So all those folks who are working with national board teachers or are national board certified teachers here on the commission, this is a really, really promising information. Yes, I do want to also highlight that we, I love that, and I would love Commissioner Francois to learn more about the work that you're doing around Prop 28 and kind of building that momentum. we just had a summit. You were there. Excellent, excellent. And I thought it was amazing. Bringing in student voice and some of that technical assistance. We are moving this forward and making sense of it as we go. And I think everyone needs to understand that. We're taking legislation and putting some meat on it and trying to figure out how is this impacting our schools, and how can we continue to support as we move forward. We value arts education. I think everybody in this room does, everybody out in our schools do. So how do we make this make sense for us? That's where we are right now. In addition to that, just letting you also know, we hosted a math summit recently as well. So we've had a huge focus on reading by third grade and literacy, and that continues to be our huge focus. But we're also looking at math and how are we supporting our students around math instruction. And so maybe more to come in the future about that. I know that we're closing the loop on literacy right now with our preparation programs, which I think is really important. But our next steps hopefully will include something around math instruction as well. With that, I will close. Chair, thank you.
Other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Pabry and Commissioner White-Smith, I see your hand. You're after Commissioner Pabry and then Commissioner Davis.
Good morning, everyone. Great to see you all. Happy New Year. It is February, but still Happy New Year. I just wanted to report back in a key priority for us in the CSU, and especially in our Division of Academic and Student Affairs, is around intersegmental partnerships. And it's really wonderful to hear, you just got two examples from our community college and our UC partners about ways in which we're working together to build the educator pipeline. The PK3 credential is what I wanted to just really briefly touch upon. We are super excited by this morning's news, as I'm sure everyone around the state is. Our campuses are ready to go. As Commissioner Brown said, we had 19 of our CSU campuses in attendance at this convening that we had last week. That was supported by the Silver Giving and the Heasing Simons Foundation to bring together intersegmental teams from our LEAs, from our community colleges, and our CSU faculty to really think about the critical elements in building this PK3 credential so we get it right. The strong focus was on working with multilingual learners, and we had an excellent keynote by Dr. Ileana Lanis from the University of Texas in San Antonio. A lot of rich discussion around early literacy, especially addressing the needs of multilingual students. And we will have a convening on April 19th around early numeracy. So very much looking forward to the intersegmental ways in which we're building this credential and building pipelines for students from across the different segments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner White-Smith.
Good morning, colleagues, and thank you so much, Chair Greenough-Shire, for the accolades for the award. I feel blessed and honored by the acknowledgement. Again, in my role as the representative for the independent private not-for-profit universities and colleges, I just want to echo our excitement and thrill about the PK3, and we too stand ready in partnership with all of you to help to develop our next generation of early childhood educators, and standing on the shoulders of those early childhood educators who came before to make this and fought to make this possible. So we're very excited. I also just wanted to share a couple of things, exciting things that our partners in the independent world are doing in order to be supportive in developing the teacher pipeline. Our colleagues at Azusa Pacific University, they participate in a mini grant funding opportunity for future teachers called Keeping History Alive and Bringing STEM to Life. And these programs support teachers in securing their student resources, teacher resources, professional development, field trips, and they just finished their last award cycle. They gave over $200,000 to about 150 teachers across Los Angeles, Riverside, and San Bernardino counties. And for the over 10 years that they've run the mini grants program, they've given out about $3.6 million to over 9,000 teachers, impacting more than 320,000 PK-12 students. So I just wanted to elevate the work that our colleagues at Azusa Pacific are doing in order to support teachers in our counties. I also wanted to share, last week I had the opportunity, as I've announced in this group before, that the University of San Diego is a partner with San Diego County Office of Ed and Escolta as part of the statewide initiative for community engagement, the Community Engagement 2.0 initiative. And last week we worked with our colleagues at the County Office of Education, San Bernardino County, and CABE and Families in Schools to have over 500 families, students, and teachers in the San Jose area participate in the rain, but we weren't in the rain, we were inside, in our community engagement efforts, professional development. And I really just wanted to lift up, there was one beautiful young person who actually performed spoken word for us in light of Black History Month. And I just wanted to shout her out. She gave a spoken word about being a strong Black young person, despite the struggles that students are still having, and in light of what's happening across the country and the denying of our histories, our stories, our voices. And that young person's name is Noah Sanaa. And please go to her Instagram account and listen to her beautiful spoken word and feel encouraged about the work that we're doing for our students and for our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitesmith. Commissioner Davis?
Good morning, everybody. Is this microphone working? Because it doesn't sound like I can be heard. I'll just borrow hers.
We can hear you.
That. Yeah, but I can't hear me. I'm kidding. Good morning and happy African American History Month. I wanted to not stretch this out, Madam Chair, I promise, but I'm going to start with a poem by Langston Hughes. It's short, called Dreams. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow. And I wanted to start with that because my comments are all kind of centered around how we are preparing our educators and our students in our classrooms to achieve those dreams. I wanted to focus a little bit on imposter syndrome. It's come up a lot as I've done my work in the past, 2 or 3 years, as a term that just keeps kind of reverberating. And in the field I've discovered in my work in the classroom and in the educator preparation arena, that imposter syndrome and anxiety are still limiting people from taking part in the opportunities and being present in certain spaces. There's hope because we're creating pipelines for success around the school to prison pipeline. So we're just getting kids around that whole hump. And we're doing that through creating spaces in our classrooms, in our schools. And we're helping kids understand that it is possible to be successful. We're encouraging students and teachers into spaces they have only used to dream to be. And that's the work in education, especially for our students and educators of color. And through national board certification, and now with the addition of the P3 credential, we can bring the message of accomplishing dreams and goals to an even younger audience, helping them to understand the possibilities for their future. We want them to be dreamers who become achievers, not just dreamers. Thank you to all staff and all our colleagues in the field who have helped to bring our P3 effort to fruition. We appreciate you. I had the pleasure last weekend of presenting at the Good Teaching Conference, where again, imposter syndrome became kind of a theme in a lot of the sessions around, and I was at the Good Teaching Conference North, by the way. The South is coming soon. I presented with Silver White and Agnes Zapata, my colleagues from Stanford, who started our national effort with our BIPOC cohorts. And then we were joined by Stacy Hicks from National Board and Susan Olson from CDE. And so we all co-presented our session. We talked about our grant program where NEA granted us about $1 million for our effort. And now throughout the state of California and Stanford, and through our program in Stanford, we've become a national program. And the grant isn't funding our national effort, but our statewide effort it is. But that grant program is being replicated in other large states like Texas and New York. So our program truly is becoming a national effort because NEA is considering grant applications from like-minded individuals in those states. And we're finding that the statistics that Commissioner Cotton spoke about are happening in those states as well. And so the numbers are increasing for teachers of color who are becoming national board certified. And again, they're working in our high priority schools, which means that those achievement rates in those high priority schools are also increasing. After that session, I sat down with CTA local president Leticia Urias and her assistant soup, Dr. Jeffrey Lagazino from the Mountain View School District in El Monte. And we read through their whole community schools grant application and revised the whole thing right there in the middle of the conference. So we sat there for 5 hours going through that whole process. But I wanted to lift up their effort because what I found working with an administrator and a classroom teacher, there was seamless communication. There was just this outstanding synergy there that I've rarely seen in education. We often talk about administrators working on the dark side of education. You know, there's this kind of joke about that. But it's sometimes hard to share leadership when you're a leader in a school, and this district is doing it correctly. They've taken down their org chart and they've fashioned it into a circle as opposed to this kind of hierarchy of folks. They've done things to bring in the community and establish a program that I feel like could be the blueprint for the future of education in the state of California. So again, uplifting what the Mountain View folks are doing in El Monte, California, because it's just an amazing grant application. I hope it's approved, and if it is, that we'll all get to see it around this table at some point and see it as a model for our work here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Any other commissioners? What's that? Yes, Commissioner Cardenas.
Being mindful of time. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, staff. Good morning, members of the public, and also good morning, our fellow commissioners. This week, as many of you have heard, even maybe in CTC News, is National School Counseling Week. So to all of our school counselors, happy National School Counseling Week. We know that this week is a week of advocacy. This year's theme is standards-based and student-focused. So National School Counseling Week of 2024 is February 5th to the 9th. It's to focus public attention on the unique contributions of school counselors within the U.S. school systems. National School Counseling Week, sponsored by ASCA, highlights the tremendous impact school counselors can have in helping students achieve school success and plan for a career. National School Counseling Week is always celebrated the first week in February. Again, this theme is in 2024 is school counseling standards-based, and student-focused. And with that said, as we focus on our students, I also have to remind us that the social emotional growth of our students is essential. The wellness is essential. As we remain student-focused, we also have to acknowledge the importance of the mental health of our staff, because we have seen our staff really have tough times, and it's because they're always pouring their hearts into our students. And so one of the things that I really caught on the CTC news and really inspired me is our former student liaison, Corey Jones. And she talks about, she gives advice. And some of the advice that just really caught my attention was for those candidates who are interested in pursuing a teaching credential, and this is from her, go for it. Do not allow for any tests or assessments to stand in your way. Do not allow your wage or people who attach value to wage to stand in your way. When you become a teacher, remember that if you enjoy what you're teaching, so would your students. That you are one of the most important people in the room. Without you, the world will be chaos. Choose to have a good day and choose peace. That's from Ms. Corey Jones. To my fellow commissioners and CTC staff, the work that is done here has a ripple effect across our state. And back to Ms. Corey Jones, her experience here at the commission, quote, "This experience gave me hope in the future of education and security in knowing that we are still pushing the needle to equity in education." As we all know, by just learning from Rosa Parks, that one person can change the world. And all of you, one person, all of us together, we can change anything we set our minds to. Thank you very much for all the work that you do, and truly appreciate all our school counselors and all of our educators. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardenas. Do any other commissioners have anything to report? All right, how about our liaisons? Yes, liaison.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me? Pretty okay. Good morning. Yeah, it's great to see everyone again. I know we have a fellow wave in the building. Dr. Ooh, I forgot how to say your last name. I'm sorry, but it's nice to meet you. And yeah, special shout out. I know that some staff members at Pepperdine are watching right now. Special shout out to my professors and my parents who actually are in today to come visit. Very grateful that you guys are here. Yes, Papa and Mama Wicks definitely deserve that round of applause. All right. So recently, I've started my full-time teaching placement in a 5th grade classroom in Las Virgenes Unified, and I'm currently immersed in the process of completing my EdTPA. In the past 2 meetings I've attended, we've discussed the workload and pressure associated with the EdTPA for student teachers. Now that I'm actively engaged in it, my peers and I can wholeheartedly confirm those sentiments. So like, yeah, from managing the task and subtasks that comes within each contact or aspect of the EdTPA, making storage on my phone to make sure I record myself, to record my lessons, drafting the lesson plans, fulfilling the observation hours, preparing for the RICA, the UFS observation. There's a lot going on. It's on top of other responsibilities of being a student. It's definitely a lot to handle. So I'm happy that we're having so many conversations about EdTPA, the RICA, CSETs. These are very important things that are now affecting me a lot more intensely. And I'm glad to see that we are starting to move the needle and change some things for requirements to becoming a teacher. And regarding more requirements of, for the credentialing process, I do see how it is an additional barrier and deterrent for individuals considering the field of teaching. In my attempts to even like recruit friends into teaching or just talking to people about the teaching field, I've encountered their growing disinterest, especially now as I near the completion of my own credentialing requirements. I often hear comments like, "You go into the classroom every day to teach and don't get paid," referring to my full-time teaching requirements. And at Pepperdine, or I'm sure at other schools too, we have to drive ourselves to our schools Monday through Friday, work 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. or whenever your students get out. And I know that a lot of us who have on-campus jobs, you know, the 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 5 p.m. time frame, we can't fulfill those requirements either. So it's hard to go into the classroom without getting some type of payment or stipend and pay for gas money and, you know, all the livable things we need. As well as Why would you put all this effort into a career or a credential and barely make a livable wage? And these sentiments are completely understandable. And while teaching is my passion and something I deeply want to pursue, I acknowledge their valid concerns. My peers recognize the dedication and hard work we put in as student teachers, but they don't believe the rewards after becoming credentialed outweigh the efforts invested. One of the aspects I addressed in my application was the need to recruit more teachers and improve retention rates. And it's evident to all of us that there's a shortage of teachers, and the hurdles involved in obtaining a teaching credential only serve as further deterrents. Also, in the last meeting, I discussed my interest in including more access and opportunities for myself as a student liaison to connect and learn from my fellow credential-seeking peers across the state of California. So I want to propose that the California CTC grants this current student liaison access to student email addresses of students enrolled in the credentialing program, or creates a dedicated webpage on the commission site where the student liaison can communicate and receive feedback from students in the program. Additionally, I suggest implementing an option for students to subscribe to the webpage or email blast, allowing them to receive updates and information from the commission with the ability to opt in or opt out as they desire. And to touch on the rationale of this proposal, I think it brings enhanced communication. Providing the student liaison access to student email addresses or a dedicated webpage will facilitate direct communication between the liaison and the students. This will streamline the dissemination of important information regarding program updates, deadlines, and relevant opportunities for students across the state. Also, student input. Establishing a platform for communication allows students to provide valuable input and feedback on their experiences within the credentialing program. This feedback can inform decision-making process to help address any concerns or challenges students may face. I just want to touch on that. I've been speaking, I feel, from a lot of the perspectives of Pepperdine's student teaching program, and sitting on this credential, I hear there's so many different ways of even obtaining your credentials. So having access to other students across the state to hear about their experiences, I think is very important as I sit up here with you guys, so I can share their experiences as well, not just from my little bubble in Malibu. Also, it is a great bubble. I love my bubble. Also, timely information sharing, just staying on top of, I know we make a lot of changes, and even being a student in the program, learning about, I know we had to change like the name of our liberal arts major to liberal studies to fit like certain major requirements. There's just a lot of different things moving, which I think is important to have. But just having that timely information can be really helpful for the students, especially hearing from one of their peers. And then also my final two rationales. I believe it aligns with the commission's mission. The proposed initiative aligns with the commission's mission to support the preparation and professional development of educators. By facilitating communication between the student liaisons and students, the commission demonstrates its commitment to supporting student success and fostering a collaborative learning environment. And of course, empowering future student liaisons. Implementing a subscription feature ensures that future student liaisons can continue to utilize the webpage as a communication tool effectively. This feature empowers future liaisons to engage with students and share pertinent information, contributing to the continuity and effectiveness of student outreach efforts. So yeah, that's just some things I wanted to touch on. I'm excited for the conversations we're going to have today. And if there's anyone else I can speak to about getting these things moving or in action, I'll be more than happy to talk during any break, lunch, or for the next 2 days. And thank you. That concludes my reports.
Thank you, Student Liaison Wicks. I know Executive Director Sandy and her staff will take your requests under serious consideration. Thank you. Any other liaisons? I see Liaison Rodriguez. Yes.
Yes, good morning again, and welcome to our new commissioner. I wish I could meet you in person, but I think that may happen at our next meeting, and I'm sorry I'm missing being with all of you this morning. I just have a few updates from the State Board of Education. In January, the board began the process of adopting new instructional materials in alignment with the new mathematics framework at the January 2024 meeting. The CD's process of selecting and convening panels and reviewing submitted materials, including high quality open educational resources, will be informed by the State Board's Instructional Quality Commission, IQC. The State Board is expected to consider the IQC's recommended list of materials for adoption in November 2025. I also want to highlight a grant opportunity for ALIAs, the Specialized Secondary Programs Grant. which is designed as a startup funding for schools to establish new CTE programs and advanced instruction and training in the performing arts and high-tech fields. The RFA is live and applications are due at the end of May. Successful grantees will receive $35,000 to plan for their new program and 2 additional years of funding to implement if planning requirements are met. For additional information, search SSP on the CDE website. Commissioner Cotton shared the great news that's happening with national boards, so I will skip that, but I'm filled with hope and excitement for all that was shared this morning. And finally, the state board heard an interesting presentation on AI in artificial intelligence and education. Many are speaking about the need for teachers to be prepared, and we heard a little about our new commissioner this morning with this regard, and receive professional development in this new and potentially transformative area. I'm pleased the draft CSTPs reference AI and would suggest the CTC explore further how we can support tomorrow's teachers and administrators to safely leverage this technology for both learning, teaching, planning, and intervention. Thank you so much. That concludes my liaison report.
Thank you. All right. I now recess the general session and move to the Fiscal Policy Planning Committee. Commissioner Cruz, will you please convene the committee? Hang on one second. Does he have it? Okay.
I now convene the meeting of the Fiscal Policy and Planning Committee. The committee has one item before it today. Is this on?
Yes, thank you.
Item 3A is an update on the governor's proposal 2024-25 budget. It is an information item. Sarah Sadley will present this item. Ms. Sadley, will you please begin?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sarah Zaley, and I am the Fiscal and Business Services Manager here at the Commission. This morning, I will be providing an update on the budget, and that is Governor Newsom presented his proposed 2024-25 budget on Wednesday, January 10th. With the current state of the budget, the governor's proposed budget does not include any new funding to the Commission. However, there are 2 proposals on the table. The first is that the budget directs the Commission to create a new elementary arts and music education authorization for career technical education teachers. And that's additional pathways for experienced artists to be able to provide art instruction in elementary school classrooms, as well as instructions for those in grades 7 through 12. The budget also includes recognizing completion of a bachelor's degree as satisfying basic skills requirement for a credential and improving transcript review to certify subject matter competency. As you already know, the governor will present again at May Revise, and at this point, the state will have an updated revenue picture, and therefore we'll have a better picture of where the budget will be for enactment. We will provide additional information at that time. And thank you. If you have any questions, please let me know.
We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raise hand icon. If participating through Zoom or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes. Trish Adams, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hello, my name is Ann Fennell. I had to use Trish Adams' Zoom. I apologize. I am the president of the California Music Educators Association, representing 1,700 music educators, and I appreciate your earlier recognition of the value of the arts. CMEA is urgently addressing a concern regarding the creation of a proposed career tech ed supplemental arts authorization to instruct arts at the elementary level, seemingly counterintuitive to the new early childhood education certificate. While we recognize the importance of career tech ed and the valuable career training for secondary students, we believe it is misguided for foundational knowledge and skills in the arts that reflect the California art standards and the California standards for the teaching profession. Our point is that credentialing options exist, such as short-term staff permit and supplementary authorizations, and these can be continued and seen as a solution. Allowing individuals with industry experience in the arts but lacking rigorous coursework to teach elementary grades risks undermining subject matter competency and marginalizes a student's education. Competency is vital for effective teaching, ensuring accurate knowledge transfer and engagement with students. Without it, there's a risk of students falling behind, particularly those with neurodiverse needs, second language needs, or from disadvantaged backgrounds. Moreover, this proposal deviates from the intent of Prop 28 to provide quality arts and music education for all, by potentially lowering teaching standards and instructional outcomes, which compromises the educational experience of our children. We urge reconsideration of this proposal. Let us uphold the integrity of arts education by ensuring that those who teach it possess the necessary qualifications and expertise. Thank you.
Mary, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Got it? Good morning. My name is Mary Johnson from LA County. My organization is Parent Return, and I'm a parent that worked to Pepperdine University, and I just got this late in the game this morning regarding that. But I want to talk a little bit more about construction of the teacher ed program. I worked with Pepperdine for since 2007 until recently, and the teacher ed program. And our program was called UpTech, with Dr. Anthony Colades, which is now an assistant dean over at Pepperdine. And I'm listening to a lot of things, but I don't see anything really being revamped, anything in teacher ed, because right now I know Pepperdine is moving forward to more of a digital teacher program. And the problem I have working all these years, and it was very successful, we was able to bring parents into the classroom from urban community, and the parents had more access to teachers while they were doing teacher ed program. The teachers was able to go into our community and shadow the parents, spend the weekend there, and we did a lot of amazing things. But the parent became a co-instructor in the classroom. And that was like for 5 years. And all the parents became ambassadors because we was able to get those teachers into our schools and our community, where they were very successful in building a relationship, a bridge that we was able to maintain. Most of the teachers that were trained under the UpTech was placed in our schools. And they knew our community before they got there in that community. They knew the expectation of parents because they work with parents on a daily basis. And I don't see that. I see now everybody want to go digital. If they go digital in teacher ed, what's going to happen is that there's not going to be any really hands-on hand or communication of parents face-to-face with teachers before they get out on campus. It will only be book learning. And book learning is not enough to change the status quo of the urban community or inner city, which one we want to call it. We are digressing and going backwards instead of going forward, because there's no way that we should be moving forward after COVID in this atmosphere that we are now going to go digital. Everything going digital except parent engagement. And if we're going to make it digital with a teacher ed or the state of California, then we need to look at a digital platform for parents, where parents work at their own pace, not go to a meeting at 9 o'clock and they give you a paper and then it's all over and you're training. But it's really getting to be things like we need things to move forward, such as every kid should be developing what I call ICAP, from early ed that follow them all the way through to the 12th grade, so we can keep an eye on what they're doing, and not just when the SBAC comes up that we're able to do those things. That's not working. It hasn't worked over the years, and it's still not going to work now until we start tracking those kids. I don't like to use the word tracking, but monitoring our kids from each grade level. And the counselors are working with the families and the kids to make sure we have that growth in curriculum. And what's happening is now we only use one test. Oh, I did do assessment in the classroom, but we use one test to measure the achievement of our kids, and that's the SBAC. That have not worked. If it is, we get those scores so late in the year that we can't use that to improve nothing on the kids. And another thing, if we're going to build curriculum and we're going to teach the right way, we need to teach that every kid learn different. There's not one model for education for all kids. And then also we need to go to this concept is that we need to start building curriculum around the student learning style, which it have not been
So,
done
ma'am,
for years.
can I ask you to wrap up
I'm
your
sorry.
comments,
The
please?
wrapping up is that we have a long way to go, and we didn't even cross the threshold. We have the governor and everyone saying what is good, but these are still status quo ICO standards. And if we're going to get better for the inner city to read, we must change. We must change how we look at kids learning. We must turn on how we do higher ed learning, because it's not being done. Digital teaching program is not working.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Do we have any more public comments?
Additional requests. I'm sorry. One just came in.
Hello,
Audrey,
I have a public comment.
please go ahead and make your public comment.
Okay, this is in regard to agenda item 4B. My concern with the revised 2024 CSTPs.
So we're on item 3A.
Oh, I'm sorry.
time.
I need to wait until later. I get it.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comment? The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Yes, go ahead.
And this might not be the appropriate place to take it up, but I wonder if it would be helpful to give a reminder of how this is going to be taken up, this creation of a new elementary arts and music education, just an overview of how staff is going to respond to that request.
Good morning. So right now, because the language is in the budget trailer bill, it needs to still go through the process of being negotiated by the legislature and the governor's office. So we won't really know what the final language for this proposal is, or if the proposal makes it all the way through the process until likely mid-June, potentially even July 1st. So that's when the legislature and the governor would take action, and we would hopefully see final versions of the language at that time, and then we would implement after the budget bill is signed by the governor. So that's the technical process of how it'll work.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Do we have any more questions or comments? This is an information item and no action is needed. Thank you, Ms. Seal.
Thank you, Commissioner Cruz. Colleagues, can we take a very short break? Would you please return in 8 minutes? How's that? Okay, Commissioner Gross. No, just kidding. 8 minutes. Okay. Next is the Educator Preparation Committee. Commissioner Cardenas, will you please convene the committee?
Good morning, everyone. I'm trying to join Zoom right now. All right, I think I'm on. The first item for today is 4A, options for integrated. Wait, I'm gonna stop, go backwards. Jumped ahead. I would like to call the February 2024 meeting of the Educator Preparation Committee to order. We have 5 agenda items. 3 of these items are scheduled for today. The remaining 2 items are scheduled for tomorrow. The first item for today is 4A, options for integrated undergraduate teacher preparation program candidates to meet the subject matter competence requirement by degree major. This item is being presented by Jake Schuler and Cheryl Hickey. This is an action item. Ms. Hickey, will you please begin?
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. We are bringing this item to you today with 2 options for your consideration and possible action to address a current potential barrier for candidates in integrated teacher preparation programs that currently prevents them from taking full advantage of the expanded options provided for in AB 130 that was passed back in 2021. In particular, the academic degree option for demonstrating subject matter competence. What we've learned in discussing this topic with the field is that this item can get in the weeds really quickly. So we wanted to underscore a couple of points as you have your conversation today. First, this agenda item only addresses candidates enrolled in integrated preparation programs. That is, they're candidates in earning their bachelor's degree and their credential concurrently, and the content is intentionally and thoughtfully integrated in that way. Second, this item only addresses candidates in integrated programs that, once they complete their degree, that specific degree would meet their subject matter competence requirement. This item today does not address or pertain to candidates in other types of programs like traditional 5th year post-baccalaureate or as interns. Both options we present to you today for consideration would be a change in commission policy, but both are within the confines of Education Code Section 44259. And finally, the 2 options we're putting forward for consideration will still result in all new teachers having to have demonstrated subject matter competence prior to being recommended for the credential. This item is the result of a convergence of other policy decisions that have made over the past few years. The state's desire for growth in integrated undergraduate teacher preparation programs, the expansion of integrated programs that are not necessarily tied to a commission-approved subject matter program, and the expansion of ways in which the candidate may meet subject matter requirements as a result of the 2021 legislation. I'm going to now pass this to Jake Schuler to talk a little bit more.
Thanks, Cheryl. Hi, everyone. Good to see you this morning. This is a topic we've been hearing about from programs since the passage of AB 130 in 2021, when the new options for meeting subject matter competence by degree major or coursework evaluation were first put into place. We want to especially thank those programs for providing input on this issue and also for their valuable feedback more recently on the development of this agenda item. As Cheryl mentioned, one group of candidates that have not been able to take advantage of the new degree major option are candidates enrolled in an integrated undergraduate teacher preparation program that are not associated with the subject matter preparation program. As the agenda item discusses, the law under Ed Code Section 44259B5 requires that subject matter competence be complete before a candidate is recommended for their preliminary credential. So that's at the end of the program. However, commission policy has set an earlier timeline in the program to require that subject matter be met prior to daily whole class instruction. Daily whole class instruction is typically thought of as the final portion of student teaching or that culminating 4 weeks of solo or co-teaching. Because integrated undergraduate credential candidates are completing their credential and bachelor's simultaneously, they have not therefore completed that degree before the deadline to meet subject matter competence. The commission understood this dilemma for candidates in commission-approved subject matter preparation program, and so many years ago adopted a policy that allows candidates in the commission-approved integrated program with a subject matter prep program to start the daily whole class instruction once 4/5 of that subject matter prep program was complete. But this option does not exist for those in an integrated program that's not tied to a subject matter prep program. That solution that was put forward years ago for subject matter prep programs made sense when there were only two ways to meet subject matter, by CSET or through the subject matter prep program. This issue for integrated programs is particularly poignant right now, given that in recent years, as Cheryl mentioned, there's been an expansion of integrated undergraduate credential programs, and it's been a statewide priority in helping address California teacher shortages. And the Commission has supported these efforts through grants and technical assistance, and many institutions have added this pathway. As Cheryl also mentioned, it's important to note this agenda item does not apply to intern candidates who must meet subject matter competence before they're recommended for their intern credential. So at the very beginning of their program, when they become teacher of record. So the question today is how to address this issue and to allow these candidates in integrated undergraduate programs to begin daily whole class instruction without having to take the CSET in order to do so, given that they're on track to complete a degree that would automatically qualify them for subject matter. So some examples of eligible candidates: this would be a multiple subject candidate who might be majoring in liberal studies or liberal arts or elementary education, or a single subject candidate in math who is majoring in math. And these are just a couple of examples, but so it's for any of the degrees that are considered sort of an automatic degree match under AB 130. Okay, so the two options. Option one would extend the 4/5 completion option that's in place right now for subject matter. It would extend that to all integrated undergraduate credential candidates. The second option would remove the requirement to meet subject matter competence before daily whole class instruction for all integrated candidates. So both those in a subject matter prep or just in the eligible degree major. So these two options are reflected in Appendix A and Appendix B. So option one is reflected in Appendix A. Option two is in Appendix B. As the agenda item also mentions, there are some pros and cons that are listed. Option one would extend an option that is already familiar to some programs, but it would require program staff to calculate the 4/5 of a degree major. Option two would likely be the easier option logistically, but there would be a small subset of candidates who may have trouble completing their full degree major in order to then be recommended for the credential. I also want to make sure you've seen that there are letters submitted. There are some written comments to this item, thanking the Commission for bringing this up, and that the letters seem to be evenly split between the two options. All right, I'll stop there, conclude our presentation, and we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. We will have a timer and it will have a 2-minute limit. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes, Carrie Birmingham, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
All right, thank you. Thank you for considering these options. I work at Pepperdine in our undergraduate integrated teacher preparation program, where we offer multiple and single subject programs. Our candidates are completing their degrees as they are completing their education coursework and student teaching. Many of our candidates' student during the final semester of their senior years. They have not graduated, but they have completed all or nearly all of their major coursework. It only makes sense to believe that in that final semester, their subject matter is completely solid, subject matter competency is solid, just as solid as it will be once they have been granted their bachelor's degree at the end of that semester. By finishing or nearly finishing all the courses in a relevant and appropriate major, they are ready, subject matter wise, to student teach. If one of these options is passed, our candidates who are completing a relevant and appropriate major will be released from the burden of having to take specific courses to meet SMC or to pass the CSET subtests. Thank you.
Annette Hernandez, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Thank you, everyone. Annette Hernandez from Loyola Marymount University. Just wanted to take a moment really to thank the CTC, Cheryl and Jake for your avid support on this issue, and the many colleagues that have really made this agenda item a reality for us. Like Pepperdine, we have several integrated undergraduate programs, as well as some subject matter programs. So we have both candidates. Passing one of these options would make a significant difference for our program candidates, as well as in the ability to address the expansive teacher shortage in California. Personally, while I can see the benefits and potential drawbacks for both options provided, I am leaning towards option one. And while it may be an initial challenge for some programs to calculate the 80% of major coursework necessary to satisfy the subject matter competency, I do think it's something that's doable. As a program director, I see the value in candidates needing to satisfy SMC prior to beginning their whole class instruction, similar to how our subject matter programs are expected to do that as well. I think it is beneficial for the candidate, their knowledge base and their overall competence, and it is beneficial for our TK-12 students as well. Ultimately, the goal is to change the current policy and ideally make it equitable for undergraduate candidates to satisfy SMC via the major option through the various integrated programs that we have developed and strengthened for them in recent years. Thank you.
We have no additional requests for public comment.
The public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Simmons?
I tend to favor the second option, but I have a question. If the second option were chosen, could a university hypothetically have a freshman take over a classroom? So what would be the delineation?
The program could have an earlier deadline to meet subject matter than the final recommendation. But no, it would be up to the program to make a decision as to when the candidate is subject matter competent to start that final piece of student teaching. So they would have had to complete the majority of their 600 hours of clinical practice before that final piece.
It's the definition of daily whole class instruction is the issue here. Is it possible for an institution to put in a freshman? Probably possible. Yes, I would say yes. It doesn't say that though. Oh, the mic is not. Sorry.
Is there a way to say that you have to be upper division status, or you've met all the lower division coursework, or something to sort of split the baby?
That is certainly up to the
Or
commission.
would a program ever do that? I mean, as a practical matter, would a university, and maybe Shireen or Anna Marie would answer that question better, would they ever design a program that wouldn't be for juniors or seniors to do their taking over a classroom?
I can't speak for all IHEs, but I can't imagine that happening at a UC. In our undergraduate program, they do not begin, they do their student teaching beginning their senior year of their undergraduate major. And some extend to summer, depending upon their readiness to take on. I think, no, you asked me a question, so I'm gonna answer it. The whole Robert's Rule of Order thing, I think Roberts needs to go someplace. I think, you know, I'm a big proponent of having standards, but giving institutions flexibility because they know their candidates best. And it's not as easy as just kind of check marking hours or check marking classes, right? And so I think, I believe, and I will only speak for the UCs at this point, although I know my CSU colleagues would probably agree, I can't imagine any of the program allowing young people to go into that full-time student teaching prior to finishing the majority of their undergraduate course.
All right, I see that Commissioner Heredia has a comment that I was gonna let Colonel Shire answer.
I can no longer speak for the CSU, but I would say, given my experience with our educator preparation colleagues, that I can't imagine that they would design a program that would allow someone who had just begun their program to teach. And what I like about option 2 is it gives our colleagues the flexibility to design a program based on best practices. So I concur with Commissioner Francois on this one.
Yeah.
Commissioner Heredia?
Yes, good morning. Thank you. And thank you for this report. I too favor option 2 for a couple of reasons here. Number one, when we look at, when we think about what's in place, the standards are in place. And also the student teaching is there. But I also think that, because the standards are there and the student teaching, and because, teachers are selected by the university to mentor, student teachers, I think those things in place give it strength to go to move with option 2. Option 1, I'm leery of option 1 because of the fact that not all campuses have the resources to review transcripts on a regular basis. So that's that's my concern about option 1. But option 2, I'm confident as someone who used to place student teachers in schools, signed off for their credentials. I know there's a lot of work behind the scenes, that there's a lot of support there. So I'm in favor, of letting the universities design their programs. David, I don't think anybody would design a program where they would, place someone in a program, not having completed their undergraduate work. I like that idea of institutions considering saying, you've got to finish your undergraduate work, but anyway, so my support is for option 2. Thank you.
Ms. Hickey?
I just wanted to respond. The daily whole class instruction is typically the culminating experience. So it comes at the end of a program. So while it's probably legally, technically, somebody could do that, but it's not likely. I mean, because it's at the end of the program.
I think Commissioner Brown, you, and then Commissioner Kine after.
One of the things that this does, and I think, and I would advocate for option 2, is that ITEPs aren't just about teacher shortage. ITEPs are also about access and affordability for our new people that we're trying to get into the teaching profession. So I would recommend option 2 with that flexibility. And to respond to what you were saying, people will need to be pursuing their bachelor's degree in this ITEP. It's not like they're just freshmen. Yeah.
Commissioner Kine?
A couple of things. One, it makes me nervous when we're talking about policy and saying words like hope and expect and should, because that makes me nervous. We hold our colleagues accountable. We know that our colleagues are going to do the right thing, but if we're talking about policy, building in hope and expectations probably should be a little bit more clear. I was reminded of the, and I don't know if this pertains or not, the emergency substitute teaching permit for prospective teachers. There's a requirement in there around 90 units. So is it possible to build some safeguards in there so that it's not too loose, where we end up with a freshman student teaching in a classroom because, they really believed in that person? I would just be cautious with that.
Any other commissioners? Student Liaison Wicks, I'm sorry.
All right, so after reviewing everything about this proposal, I think option 2, I would fall under, or I think the most beneficial path would be option 2, and especially hearing about, I'm going through the process right now of full-time teaching and getting my credential, and I just find it challenging to think a school could possibly allow freshmen to do whole-time instruction when you have to. Yeah, okay. But I think just to further clarify, it's all the different requirements before we even enter that full-time, whole-time profession. So I think, especially just from my process, and I'm assuming this is probably the same for other students who are getting their credential, having your UFS, University Field Supervisor, observe you, your mentor teacher observing you as well as your professor. I think with those 3 adults and people who are qualified to, require, or I guess elect, if you do have SMC or subject matter competency, I think that kind of allows us to fall more appreciative for option 2. I think that, what I want to say. Also, just looking at the SMC requirements, I know, for me, I had to take the CSET, which was a requirement before I went into part-time student teaching, which is before, I believe, the whole time, or the whole full-time teaching requirement. And although I graduated from high school with associate's degrees, I had an associate's degree in mathematics and natural science. However, they still would not allow me to teach for my part-time students or part-time requirement because I did not pass the CSET, or that class that I've taken at Pepperdine, or my community college classes as well. Nothing counted. So I think it would be really beneficial to look into also what we are approving for the SMC requirements, whether it is coursework with specific majors, or if it can be GE classes that students have already taken, whether it's not completed in a full major, but something that they've completed alongside their community college requirements, or for a GE at their specific university. And then I think I had a further question. I think that's it. Just, would GE courses meet, or does it meet the requirements for SMC, or does it have to be completion of a full major to be waived for that before you enter the full-time teaching?
So the Ed Code actually it specifies exactly what we can accept for subject matter. And in this particular item, we're only talking about the one option, that is the academic degree major. It also allows, obviously, the CSET exam. It also allows a transcript review of coursework aligned to the subject matter requirements. And as Mary mentioned in her item this morning, we're going to be working a lot more this year on those subject matter requirements, but looking at those again. But yes, so there are options that are specified in Ed Code. So we have to follow the Ed Code sections that are required for that. I wanted to also mention that, there's a lot in our standards. I can't even imagine we would approve a program where a freshman would be allowed to do their daily whole class instruction. That just does not ring well and align at all with our standards. There's a very strong program design standard that talks about developmental approaches and theoretical, all of the things that you support here at the table, as well as very strong clinical practice requirements. So that, along with I just can't even imagine that would ever be approved by the commission or by the COA.
Thank you. Chair Grimshire?
Just as a point of clarification, and Ms. Hickey, I think, was open that door again about the daily whole class instruction. When I think about program development and program review, do you have any examples of institutions or ed prep programs that have inserted daily whole class instruction early on versus in the senior or the fourth year? Okay.
I can't think of any.
Okay. So I want to be mindful of the concerns that were raised around the table, that the policy stands on what we've done, our program standards, and then back to relying on our ed prep colleagues to, I'll say it, to do the right thing in terms of ensuring that the candidate is far along in their program in order to be effective with the students. So I think David was going to propose the motion.
I'm going to move option 2.
I'm going to go ahead and any other commissioners? So
I'll second.
So it looks like we have a first and a second. A first by Commissioner Simmons, a second by Commissioner Cruz. But I want to just read the motion first, right? So this is an action item. Right. So I think I want a clarification of what the motion is because there's 2 options. So the motion was for option 2.
I move that candidates enrolled in an integrated undergraduate teacher preparation program may begin daily whole class instruction of their student teaching experience before meeting the subject matter requirement. However, all candidates must meet the subject matter requirement before being recommended for their preliminary teaching credential.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Commissioner Cruz. So any further discussion? Will the recording secretary call for the vote? Each member please respond with aye, nay, or abstain.
Annette Brown.
Aye.
Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
Cheryl Cotton.
Aye.
Juan Cruz.
Aye.
Christopher Davis.
Aye.
Makita Gwino Shire.
Aye.
Megan Gross.
Aye.
Johanna Harwick.
Aye.
Susan Aradia.
Aye.
Bonnie Monica Martinez.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Juan Yuzoff.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you again, Ms. Hickey and Mr. Schuler. Next, we have item 4B, the discussion and potential adoption of proposed California standards for teaching profession. This item is being presented by Karen Sacramento and Kara Mendoza. This is an information action item. Ms. Sacramento, will you please begin?
Good morning, Commissioners. It is our pleasure to bring the proposed draft 2024 California Standards for the Teaching Profession, CSTP, which are found in Appendix A of this item, forward to you today for consideration and potential adoption. This item also presents a proposed timeline for teacher induction programs to transition to the new CSTP. The CSTP were initially adopted in the 1990s and were then updated and approved by the Commission again in 2009. Over these years, the CSTP have continued to describe strong professional practice based in the knowledge, skills, and abilities of effective teachers and within the framework of 6 overarching domains of teaching, which include engaging and supporting all students in learning, creating and maintaining effective environments for student learning, understanding and organizing subject matter for student learning, planning instruction and designing learning experiences for all students, assessing students for learning, and developing as a professional educator. These 6 standards further incorporate the essential aspects of research-based principles of effective teaching, including preparing teachers to deepen their knowledge, skills, and abilities across content areas, and particularly in the area of literacy, to create and maintain welcoming, safe, and supported classrooms and other instructional settings, to value and incorporate the background knowledge and experiences of their students through an asset-based teaching model, to collaborate in mutually respectful partnerships with families, guardians, and others in the community, and to effectively serve all students in support of their growth, development, and learning. And I will now turn it over to my CDE colleague, Kristen Cruz-Allen.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. I had the pleasure of facilitating our committee that developed this draft of the CSTP with these 2 lovely ladies here. And so just continuing our item, the CSTP have several key functions within California's Learning to Teach continuum. They are a foundational document on which California's mandatory induction system for beginning teachers is based. Each beginning teacher collaborates in developing an individual learning plan based on the CSTP to use during induction to help them demonstrate progress towards meeting the expectations of the CSTP. The 6 main domains, or the 6 domains of the CSTP, also serve as an overarching organization for the sets of teaching performance expectations adopted by the Commission that identify effective professional practice at the beginning teacher level rather than at the experienced teacher level. The CSTP also serve as a roadmap for teachers over the trajectory of their teaching careers, for deepening their knowledge, skills, and abilities to provide effective teaching and learning opportunities for all students. They guide teachers in identifying areas for focused professional growth. Finally, the CSTP provide continuity. Oh my goodness, I need more coffee. Provide continuity, a common language for talking about teaching and teaching practice, and a common core of expectations over time for the development of effective professional practice across all credential areas as beginning teachers move through and pass their induction program and become experienced veteran professionals. And I will pass it over to my colleague, Kara Mendoza.
I've had plenty of coffee, so I apologize. Here we go. Education Code 44279.2, among other things, establishes that the CSTP periodically be evaluated and updated as necessary. In the spring of 2020, Commission staff, with support from Region 15 Comprehensive Center and staff from the California Department of Education, assembled an expert work group to update and refresh the CSTP. A list of the expert work group members can be found in Appendix C of your agenda item. At the outset of the work to refresh the CSTP, the work group members were charged to consider the CSTP through a myriad of focus areas, including literacy, diversity, equity, and inclusion, social emotional learning, and the whole child, serving English learners, PK3 approaches, supporting students with exceptional needs, and family and community engagement. The year of work dedicated to the CSTP included no less than 5 two-day virtual work group meetings, reviewing multiple informational sources, analyzing field survey input and feedback, meetings with and feedback from education partners, and of course, reviewing, drafting, editing, drafting some more, and so on. In the spring of 2021, 1 year after the work began, the refreshed CSTP were ready, but COVID, critical world events, and then related work that the Commission was engaged in over those next years, namely PK3 ECE Credential Specialist, yay, shout out for today, and the revised literacy standards and TPEs, all that demanded a pause on the CSTP. When the focus shifted once again to the CSTP, it was determined that the work group should reassemble and just to look at them one last time in light of the years and the work that had happened. 17 of the 26 original workgroup members reassembled to review the CSTP and to revise as needed. Additionally, the draft CSTP were reviewed by experts in the field related to the focus areas established at the outset of our work. The draft CSTP can be found in Appendix A, and a side-by-side comparison comparing 2009 to 2024 can be found in Appendix B. When looking at the CSTP, one will see a change in the format from the earlier versions. The revised CSTP are organized in order of increasing specificity. The domain level provides the 6 categories that embed California's vision for teaching in an effective, equitable learning system. The standard level contains the broad policy statement as a foundation. The element level identifies key concepts or themes within each standard and describes what teachers do to carry out the concepts and ideals in each standard. And then last, the indicator level identifies sample practices that demonstrate sound teaching on key issues and that inform a sequence continuum for degrees of practice. At this time, I'll pass our presentation back to my colleague, Karen Sacramento.
Thank you. So with the implementation and transition considerations, it is important to note that the CSTP are that foundational and formative document within teacher induction programs and the teacher induction program preconditions and standards. And they serve as the basis for that mentor-supported individual learning plan, the ILP, that all teacher induction candidates use as their roadmap during induction to demonstrate progress towards mastery of the CSTP. If the Commission adopts the revised CSTP, teacher induction programs will need time to learn about and understand these updated standards and expectations. For example, they will have to determine what changes need to be made to their programs, how to update individual learning plans with their candidates, and provide CSTP-based mentor training. Additionally, Commission staff will need time to work with experts to revise the continuum of teaching practice. The document that provides a description of teaching based on the levels of practice aligned to the CSTP. Staff proposes that once the draft CSTP are adopted, teacher induction programs would have the 2023, 2024, and the 2024-2025 academic years to align their programs with the revised CSTP, with Commission staff providing technical assistance to programs during this time, and with programs providing an assurance statement verifying required full implementation of the 2024 CSTP within their teacher induction program beginning in the 2025-26 academic year. So now staff recommends that the Commission adopt the proposed revised 2024 California Standards for the Teaching Profession. This concludes our presentation of this item, and we would be very glad to take any questions you may have.
Thank you. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Again, we will have a 2-minute limit timer on here. Recording Secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes, the first is Lee Victoria. Please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hi there, good morning. Thank you so much. My name is Lee Della Victoria, and I am an instructional coach in the Fontana Unified School District and a former California Policy Teach Plus Fellow. I comment today in absolute full support of the adoption of the revised California standards for the teaching profession. First off, a revision is sorely needed as our current 2009 teaching standards are outdated and extremely out of touch. As I support K-12 teachers in our district, a sentiment that I commonly hear is that our students are very different now. When I dig deeper into those sentiments, teachers' insights surround student needs that are very diverse and nuanced. They are different types of learners, and our teachers often express that they're not even sure where to begin when it comes to rethinking and shifting their practice. The revised CSTP offer this guidance for teachers as they encourage teaching in a culturally and linguistically responsive way, as they are written using very concrete language that focuses in on action and implementation. As we know, all students want to be affirmed, engaged, and feel belonging in their classrooms. However, now our students are more readily expressing it. They communicate this in the evidence of their learnings or sometimes lack thereof. They want to know why and see why what they're learning is relevant to them. And in the past few decades, we viewed schools as input-output systems that have lost a lot of this humanity in individuals' already existing assets. The revised CSTP take aim to rehumanize our system by focusing on the whole student, their identities, and what's meaningful in this world to them, not us. They have the potential to transform all of our classrooms into culturally and linguistically responsive and sustaining communities. As a coach, I can tell you firsthand that the impact of this type of teaching has on students. When their identities, assets, and agency are valued, they are authentically curious and want to learn more. I am very hopeful that the Commission sees this potential and adopts these standards. Thank you.
Wendy Threat, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hello, good morning, Chairperson and members of the Commission. My name is Wendy Threat. I'm a 25-year veteran teacher in the Escondido Union School District and a senior fellow with Teach Plus. First, I want to express my enthusiastic support for Hello, can you hear me?
Please start again with your comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear my?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I thought
Yes, we can.
I think I could. Okay, great. So good morning to everybody. My name is Wendy Threat. I'm a 25-year veteran educator in the Escondido Union School District and a senior fellow with Teach Plus. First, I do want to express my very enthusiastic support for the proposed revised CSTPs. From 2/20 until today, the expert work group's continual effort to develop those standards that serve as a strong foundation to effectively teach and grow as educational professionals is very apparent in the language of these standards. These new standards require a culturally responsive, equitable, and very holistic approach to teaching and learning. I'm looking forward to using these standards when I am evaluated by my principal, because they really do show and will help support my growth and development as teachers, even after 25 years. However, in order for these standards to truly support teaching and learning, we feel a more supportive implementation and rollout needs to be developed. Teach Plus has submitted a letter outlining recommendations that we have for a strong developed plan, including extending the technical support line or time to at least 2 years, among others. And we hope you consider these ideas. We really appreciate the ongoing work of the Commission, and we are here to help with the next steps. Thank you for your time.
Brian Becker, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Brian Becker. I am the Policy Director for the Parent Organization Network. PON is also a lead member of the California Family Engagement Network, whose mission centers on fostering meaningful family engagement to enhance outcomes for all students. As noted in our written public comments, we strongly support adopting the 2024 CSTPs. We are thrilled to see substantive improvements around family engagement, cultural competency, social emotional learning, and asset-based practices woven throughout these teaching guidelines. In particular, we applaud the focus on meaningful partnerships between teachers and families. These standards provide an invaluable roadmap that will undoubtedly strengthen how teachers, schools, and communities partner with families. We urge the Commission to adopt 2024 CSTPs, cementing family engagement as a vital role in empowering student achievement. Thank you for your time.
Please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for your service. My name is Audrey Weens. I served as a Cluster Regional Director for Cluster 6 for 8 years and I've currently been leading the Fontana Unified School District induction program. My concern with the revised CSDPs is the timeline for implementation. Induction program sponsors will need time to determine what changes need to be made to their programs. The task of understanding the revisions will take a considerable amount of time and effort, and it will be important for programs to come to a common understanding of what shifts need to take place. Here are just a few of the required activities that will need to happen. Revisions to the continuum of teaching practice by CTC and program leaders, ILP revisions, induction program changes, mentor training to understand the revisions, relevant docs that need to be revised, rewritten, accreditation websites updated to be in line with the standards, handbook rewritten, MOUs revised. My humble opinion, excuse me, is that induction programs should fully implement the revised CSDPs in 2026-27 instead of 2025-26. Induction programs initially had 2 years. If you'll take a look at page 4 of the agenda item, as Karen Sacramento said, 2023-24 and 24-25 were to be the years that induction programs had to get in alignment. Because we only have 4 more months in this 2023-24 school year, I recommend waiting until full implementation of 2026-27. Thank you.
Angelica Salazar, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning, Angelica Salazar with Public Advocates. Public Advocates supports the proposed changes to the California standards for the teaching profession. We are very encouraged by how these proposed standards elevate the importance of both academic development and social emotional learning through the 6th domain. This is a necessary paradigm shift and even more critical now as communities continue healing from the pandemic. We know educators are holding a lot in their classrooms in terms of learning recovery and also social emotional development and mental health needs. The new language guiding educators toward addressing underlying causes of student behavior through culturally responsive and trauma-informed interventions, such as restorative practices and positive interventions and supports, is also very positive. The inclusion of educator bias and guidance on how to address it will improve access, inclusion, and equity in our classrooms. We also appreciate the importance given to family and community engagement. Both represent critical partnerships in the collective goal of ensuring student learning and well-being. We do have 2 requests. First, that these big changes and big shifts that are being made toward equity, inclusion, and the rest will take time to implement. So we agree with those who've already spoken on providing 2 years of technical assistance instead of 1. This would afford our teacher preparation programs and educators a longer on-ramp to build on their existing curricula and adapt to the changes. In particular, our community partners have raised serious concerns about the lack of cultural and linguistic competency in many of our schools. Let us ensure these proposed standards on greater responsiveness result in cultural and linguistic competence toward our educators or among our educators. And second, we agree with those who've also raised that the standards have a great omission in not mentioning the English Learner Roadmap. It's been our roadmap since 2017 to guide and outline our vision for our English learners. So that could be added in domain 3C, where other resources are also mentioned. Thank you.
Brian Monroy, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hello, Commission Chair Greenwich Shire and Commission members. My name is Brian Monroy. I am the California Policy Manager with Teach Plus. We want to thank you for all of the research and hard work that went into the updated CSDP. We were thrilled to see that the revised standards demonstrate a shift to a holistic approach to teaching and learning that better meets the needs of all students, and we eagerly support the adoption of the revisions. However, we want to recognize the fact that implementing these aspirational standards is just as, if not more important, than adopting them. Teach Plus teacher leaders see real potential in the shifts reflected in these standards to transform teaching and learning. Because they realize the importance of the rollout, they conducted interviews with preparation and induction directors to better understand the support they will need during the transition to the new standards. These recommendations are reflected in our letter and the linked report. We urge the Commission to build out a more robust implementation plan based on further research with those preparing and supporting our teachers. We look forward to collaborating with the Commission, and thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Paul Roback, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Good morning, honorable commissioners. My name is Paul Roback. I am honored to serve again as chairperson of the LA Unified Parent Advisory Committee. I'm here to speak in support of the proposed amendments of the CSTPs. We are very happy that the proposed additions include a focus on family and community engagement, specifically the mention of two-way partnerships and communication between teachers and families. I understand there's been some concern expressed about the rollout timeline, and I understand those concerns to a point. But the thing is, if you really get down into it, teachers should have already received significant training on best practices in parent and family engagement. Yet until very recently, there was very little coursework in the induction and pre-service training for prospective upcoming teachers. I've heard it was as little as one class session in one course over the duration of their training to be teachers. That is absolutely not enough. We have over 40 years of confirmed research which documents the positive correlation between family engagement and student academic achievement, or in layman's terms, the more parents are involved in their kids' schools, the better their kids do. There is no doubt about that. And I'm really honestly shocked that teacher induction coursework until very recently has given short shrift to best practice training on parent and family engagement. And I will say, and I know we have some teachers who are expressing concern about this, with much respect to our friends at CTA, I hope they will not oppose this prospective amendment simply because of the proposed timeline. Thank you.
Steve McDougall.
Commissioners, commission staff, Steve McDougall with CFT. CFT's position on the work done by the committee on the updating the CSTPs is thank you for your work. So you can relax. We're not going to oppose them. But, or maybe I should say and, not but. Doesn't matter what the CSTPs look like. But once someone is in service and in the profession, if they aren't periodically evaluated to make that good teacher great, to make that marginal teacher good, and to fix the teacher that's just not getting it one way or another, and it can be done, administrators have to take their number 2 job seriously. Number 1 is campus safety. Instruction, improving instruction through a cycle of inquiry of improvement is number 2. And not all, I hope I don't get a call from Jeff Freitas in a half hour from AXA or somebody. It has happened before. I hope that folks take their job seriously. Not all administrators, but far too many blow off evaluations by truckloads every year, or they use them for reasons other than improving instruction as a tool to punish. It doesn't matter what the CSTPs look like if we're not taking the job of evaluating folks seriously for improvement. Seriously. It's Black History Month. I want to quote James Baldwin. I can't believe what you say when I see what you do or don't do. And I'll leave it with that. Thank you for listening. Well, maybe we should look at administrative credentials to a commission of credentials when they don't do their job to evaluate. There's an idea. CFT can get behind. Thank you.
Tony Loken.
Can you hear me? Here we go. No, I know why. Hello, good morning. My name is Tony Tinker Loken, and I'm the Executive Director of the Loken Foundation for Equity and Inclusion. And we are a partner of PON's California Family Network Engagement. And in particular, the Loken Foundation is highly encouraged by the work that is being done, and that we are supportive of the CSTPs. In particular, we at the Loken Foundation, a CAFIN network member, are highly encouraged by the implicit attention to the preparation of first-year teachers and beyond to ensure that teachers include safe and supportive spaces that speak to include the asset-based perspective of students and their families. Additionally, the prominence of family and community engagement that centers on building relationships. And I'll let you know that I don't see that often. As a parent, as a person working in these spaces, communicating with our family and parents is essential. We need to understand just as much as the teachers understand about the perspectives of what our students should be doing. We need to feel safe. My safety is not always your safety, and my child's safety is first and foremost, as he said. But the best example of that we just saw by this young man's parents in the back of the room showing their support. This is what parent and family engagement should look like with this body and every district throughout the state of California. We are encouraged, which that centers on the building of these relationships and the emphasis of the mutual reciprocity or being able to talk. You speak, I speak, and the communication channels between the teachers, the students, and their families to hit achievement and access and success for our students. Thank you.
We have no additional requests for public comment.
Thank you. Thank you to all the public comments. Oh.
We have one that just came in. Mary, will you please unmute your microphone and share your comment?
My name is Mary Johnson. I'm the president of Parent U-Turn, also the ex-chairperson for the Parent Collaborative for LAUSD for 7 years. And I am very much in support of PON and the hard work they have done to create a new concept. What parent engagement will be, what parent engagement should look like. But I still see too much of this discussion around teachers and not enough about professional development around teachers and parents learning together on the school sites. And that's the only way we can become equal. That's the only way we can communicate as a partner, that we respect one another when we start doing professional development together. And then I also wondering how are we gathering this data that say this is what the parents in inner city or urban city or suburban parent want? Or do we have cliques again who making decisions what we want without even getting down to the heart and the tools, what real parents want and what changes that we want? But PON have came so close to what we want that I have to support it. But I also would like to see other concepts added into the parent engagement. I don't want to water down engagement anymore. I don't want no big sale kind of curriculum, because parents cannot make changes for bake sale. We need curriculum, we need standards, we need to nail it home that parents should be able to know how to work with their kids with the homework at school. But we must understand that parents are equal in the community, and our voice should be heard as much as CTA, as any teacher. So now we need to get back and say this school belongs to really the community, and that's all of us. Thank you very much.
Martina Rodriguez, please unmute your microphone and share your comment.
Hi. Hi, my name is Martina Rodriguez. My child is in the Linwood Unified School District. I work very closely with teachers for the last probably 30 years. You know, I really am here to support with the family, strongly support the family inclusion of you know, for the California standards. And I think for the teaching profession, it's really a priority to have a two-way communication. And one of the things that I see that is going to benefits the educational within our kids. You know, I just recently attended a meeting with the CTA regarding inclusion of parents within the education and also being a partners with teachers. And, you know, I really enjoy having those conversations with over 62 presidents throughout the state of California. And, you know, one of the things that I'm working here in Linwood is I'm working with the Linwood Teachers Union to kind of promote that learning environment and also trust each other to kind of move the education in Linwood forward. I think as partners with the teachers, we be able to make that possible. I'm also working to kind of bring the community schools an effort to have those connections there, that the teachers, we're going to be able to work closely and trust each other, that this is what it's going to take in order for us to really create a healthy learning environment for our kids. You know, it's like I cannot see the world without teachers. I cannot see them. I think all of us have been influenced by teachers some way or the other. And I think for me, teachers are very important. But if we don't build that bridge between the home and directly with the class, you know, it's going to be hard for just us to stay outside and not really work closely with the teachers. Thank you very much for your time.
No additional requests for public comment.
I'll pause just in case. Well, the public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Okay, so I'll work in backwards order if that's okay. So Commissioner Brown, and then Commissioner Francois, and then Commissioner Grove.
Thank you so much. Is it on? First and foremost, I just want to express appreciation for the efforts of the work group 2020, 2024, anyone who was ever on the work group at any time. This was a very huge and thoughtful effort. So I really appreciate that. And I want to say thank you to the staff too for having the same persistence over a long period of time to stay focused on the refresh and really making sure that you know, the changes that were made were really thoughtful and responsive to what's going on in the field. So having said that, I really just have one clarifying question. Because I believe it was Ms. Mendoza who explained how these are organized differently. Because right when you said that, I had a teeny tiny twinge of panic, because being a 28-year educator who is very used to the way they were organized before, I was like, I don't know the new. So I wrote down everything you said about how it was organized. The standard is the policy, the element level. I was wondering if you might be able to say that again, but direct me to a page and kind of walk me through the format. I know that on page 9 is the first CSTP, but could you say that again while I'm looking at a sample of the organization? I think it will make me feel like it's okay. It's okay that we rearrange our kitchen once in a while. The things are still there. So thank you.
Ms. Mendoza, would you like to respond?
Indeed. Indeed. And I'd like to say this to preface before I start. Do you remember the questions? They're like the indicators. Does that help? Okay, excellent. So looking at page 9, the CSTP 1, engaging and supporting all students in learning, that's the domain. The little sentence that follows is the standard. Then you have the element. One of the 4 or 5 elements that generally appear under a standard. I think standard 6 has more, but it's okay. And then each element has the indicators. Those are like what you might see in a classroom when, you're observing new teachers and how new teachers can understand these are some things I might do in the classroom. And those indicators sort of replace the questions. The questions got lost when we had placemats. And we thought those questions were very important because it kind of brought life to the elements. So that's how I would explain it. Different but similar.
Thank you for making the connections for an old timer like me. Thank you.
Just want to acknowledge Commissioner Heredia. You will be after Commissioner Gross. Commissioner Francois.
Thank you. On behalf of the UCs, I want to say that we are very supportive of the proposed amendments to the CSTPs. In particular, we appreciate this holistic approach, which I think is what is going to cause some exciting dissonance in the field. In particular, we appreciate this. We have an appreciation for the strong inclusion of elements of the BTPEs that have a clear focus on linguistic assets in the different elements you just described, Ms. Mendoza. And it also raises a question for us because we've spent a lot of time over the last year and a half, actually more than that, around TP7, around literacy instruction. And it doesn't appear that that's reflected in the CSTPs, the proposed CSTPs, which given the holistic approach, I think that's fair. And I think it's just curious that they don't show up as much as the BTPEs in the elements. Just something to think about.
Commissioner Gross.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, as someone who gets evaluated using these standards for teaching performance, I was like, yes, I am doing this. This is amazing. Thank you for noticing me and my colleagues. So I felt really good about myself reading this. Just a little ego pat there. And I just really appreciate the language. I mean, I wrote down intentionally cultivate equitable access, strive to eradicate barriers. Like, I just really feel like you have brought to life all of the changes that this body has been trying to make, and to really, I think this is our tool to address kind of the elephant in the room, which is always like, we don't necessarily have a huge roadmap to teachers after induction, right? And so this is a tool for that not only supports induction, but many of our districts use this as the teacher evaluation performance standards. And so with that said, I kind of have 2 comments about language. One is I would love if we could change the areas where it says students with exceptional needs and just call it out and say students with disabilities. We don't need to put fluffy language around it. That's who they are, and we should be really proud of that. So I noticed them in 1D4, 2C5, 4D4, and 5C4, but not to say that a word search function couldn't capture that better. And then also, because this is my lens and this is a hiccup in the field, 65, the example indicator, talks about like student study team meetings. I would love for us to call out IEPs. that we're expecting educators to participate in those, because that remains a barrier in the field that folks don't always think they have to attend. And so as an example, it would be great to be like, actually right here, be very helpful. I think it would really help our families and our students to have their team there at the table. And then I wanted to comment on the different comments related to opportunities for extension of timeline. And I am in favor of extending some opportunities for technical assistance. I am not an induction program provider, but it really causes me pause to extend any sort of timelines because we got things to do here. And these changes have been enacted in our credential programs already. And this was kind of the last kind of, I feel like, domino to fall. And so our candidates are in schools where they're getting access, hopefully, to culturally responsive pedagogy and professional learning. We're really talking about equity and inclusion. And so I want us to capitalize on this sense of urgency that we have to do better for our kids. So I feel like I just want to put that out in the room that like I might not be as patient with that aspect. But I really appreciate this agenda item. I think this is a game changer for the field. So thank you very much for all the hard work.
Commissioner Heredia?
Yes, thank you. So I just have one question. One of the public comment individuals noted that the English Learner Roadmap was absent from this report. So my question is can someone explain to me the rationale for not including it? Thank you.
I'm happy to. One of the many things that the team struggled with throughout our work together was confirming that the 2024 CSTP would have a lasting mark, and so that they didn't become dated the second they were printed. So when you identify certain legislation or certain items, and then things change within the time period. Notice we haven't looked at these since 2009. So the new things that come up, they won't be included. And so that was, putting the language around English learners rather than citing documents was what the team was really interested in and was really focused on.
So I can understand that because, in your previous comments to Commissioner Brown, you talked about trying to get to, kind of just streamline and really get to the teaching and what needs to be evident. But in this case, I think you can talk about kind of, fluffy language about, someone used the word fluffy language around, what needs to be done for a particular group of students who have historically struggled in our school systems. So I would recommend, that the committee rethink adding that English language learner roadmap, because it's a roadmap. It's not something that, you need to provide students who are English language learners the opportunity to, become aware and use academic language, for example. I mean, the roadmap not only just looks at the instruction, but the roadmap also takes into consideration the stages of second language acquisition. So I would just really hope that there would be some consideration for implementing that item into the document. Thank you.
Ms. Mendoza, did you want to respond or no? Okay, just want to make sure. Commissioner Padre?
Thank you. Thanks so much to the staff and to the work group. I think kudos on the new CSTPs. My question has to do with implications now. We live in this cyclical process. And so what are the implications for our preliminary programs and then subsequently for the TPAs as well? Can you speak to that a little bit? the induction programs will be changing, but our TPEs for our preliminary programs originate from the CSTPs. And so can you speak to this iterative process then of the potential to revise TPEs for our preliminary programs? I know I'm opening up a can of worms here, but I think we need to look ahead and
I can speak to that through an induction lens in that the work group really tried to focus on continuity at this next level of practice so that the work done in preliminary programs through the TPEs and the TPA continue to be a seamless transition into induction, the domains being the same and much of the language within really being complementary. So I can speak from that lens. I can't speak from the updating timeline for the others, but there really was deep consideration to how, because timelines are not always exactly the same. So how do these continue to be, a very continual supportive process for educators?
Indeed. The other thing, the one last thing I'll add, and because building off of what Karen was saying, is that we are working on a crosswalk between the old CSTP, the TPEs, and the new CSTP once they're adopted, to show that coordination and collaboration between the TPEs, especially in the 2024 CSTP, because those CSTP foundational and TPEs there, and we made that essential that they line up.
Commissioner Simmons? Okay, I really appreciate them because they're pithy. And so much of what we seem to create, especially for outward-facing documents like this, where the general public sees them, and every teacher I think it's 80% of teachers in California are evaluated based upon these documents. I think that having something that is easy to read and understand is important. Now, the other question or maybe statement I have is there seems to be a lot of concern around the timelines for implementation, but I think that there's a lot of other structures that support their implementation besides just the timeline that I would like to have more information on. So the structures that support induction in particular are also really old. So, from like 2009. And what I would like to know is, can we get an update on like educator effectiveness money and Title II and how those support induction? And I would also like some sense of accreditation, because I have long held that accreditation for induction should look different than accreditation for other programs. I think that preliminary programs probably need maybe a deeper dive than I think induction programs do. So just in terms of resource allocation of the commission. So those are the sort of three support areas of what does induction look going forward that I'd like maybe to flesh out. Commissioner Davis?
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons, for the pithiness. I want to reverberate what Commissioner Heredia said about second language acquisition, because as a teacher who has been teaching English for the better part of 30 years and 19 years in adult ed with our ESL programs in the state, fleshing that out here in this document, I think is vital. It's important because, again, a whole large block of our students who are often underserved in our schools, who need that attention, who have special guidelines for EL monitoring, for example. It just needs to be elevated. I also want to echo what Commissioner Gross mentioned about IEPs and that process. And as a reminder to our colleagues about the necessity of them being present for those meetings and the necessity for them being present to give the input whenever possible, that should be part of that evaluation process. And I say evaluation process because I know that we're talking about educator preparation, but in consideration of timelines, and our colleagues at CFT and CTA can please come to the table and give commentary about this, but all of the collective bargaining agreements across the state will have to be updated with these CSTPs because they're in their evaluation systems and they're embedded there. So then that whole evaluation tool needs to be revamped. So that is going to trigger lots of interesting conversations that are sometimes very, very, very volatile around bargaining tables across California. So those considerations for timelines as well. And speaking truth to light, in our preparation programs, a lot of what is here in our CSTPs are already being taught to our new emerging candidates. I have been a coach and an induction mentor as well, and I know the CSTPs embedded there. These new CSTPs are going to be very interesting to put into practice because while we say what is in the new CSTPs as a guide, as guides for kind of how to respond to the older or the currently existing CSTPs. Candidates often ask, so where is that, parent and community connection, for example? And I said, well, it's implied here. So how do you engage with your parents? How do you engage with families when you're reaching out to them, and how are you bringing them into your classroom as part of that education process? But it's not here. I go, but it's implied. These are best practices. These are things you should be doing. And I'm glad that again, staff and the work groups that we've had have worked on this and that have included and folded those elements in. But again, I'd like to see again something about an IEP process, something maybe about our second language learners being elevated in the CSTPs, and also the timeline shift, perhaps not kicking the can down the road, but expanding the opportunity for people to all come online kind of at the same time. Thank you very much.
Chair Grimshire.
So I'm feeling the tension here between the urgency of doing this work and the timeline and the impact it will have on our colleagues. And so I want to suggest a couple. I'd like to make a motion, if I may. And the motion is to adopt the proposed California standards for the teaching profession as presented by staff in the work group, with a couple of friendly amendments that you've heard. One is to include students with disabilities. One is to call out the IEPs to make sure that our educators are present and active in those meetings, and then to include a reference or to shine a brighter spotlight on English learners. And whether we say the roadmap, I'd ask the staff to think about that and come back to us with what they think makes sense. Because Kara, I understand the need for this to last for a bit of time, but I also, we cannot ignore that population, as many of my colleagues have said. So a couple of friendly amendments, and then I've heard lots of feedback about the timeline coupled with the urgency to move this forward. So I would ask the staff if they can come back to us and think about implementation and how we might support the field over time in this transition. So that was a really long and complicated motion, but I think the most important things are the friendly amendments, and then the other points are recommendations to the staff, so they're not part of the motion.
So we have a motion on the table by Chair Grimshire, and then we have a second by Commissioner Simmons. believe Ms. Mendoza would like to speak.
I apologize. May I just respond to the exceptional needs versus students with disabilities, which thank you that you see you, Commissioner Gross. The team was really, the work group was really cognizant of asset-based and not having deficit language. And they did sort of feel like students with disabilities was less than, I don't know. So it was a conscious effort, and we are happy to do what the commission asks us to do. We are happy to do that. But I just wanted to explain where that came from.
Yeah, and can I just add part of that, and there were lots of conversations around this and what would be the right thing to include. Part of it was around how do you include gifted and talented students, so those students who also have exceptional needs in an asset-based way. So that's where the language kind of originated, and again, we'll defer to whatever the commission thinks best, but just a little background on that. And on the IEP part, lots around that too, just trying to figure that out. And I believe, and jump in, both of you, part of that was around the PK community who doesn't use IEPs. You know, that's more later. So then how do you capture the language so it's holistic enough for those teachers to support those students early in the way they need to, knowing what those things are, and the teacher would have to be doing those things. So an IEP, 3rd grade up. So that again, just some background if that's helpful.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Gross.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So I'm wondering if that language then could be students with disabilities and gifted students. And so why I'm going to push back on that is that the disability community has pushed back on that and said, we have disabilities. Having a disability is a normal part of the human condition. Most of us will acquire a disability at some point in our lives. So I understand the feelings around that. And I think that's work that we have to do as a society around disability. And I think also often gifted students are missed in that exceptional needs statement because we have connected that to special education, and we have a lot of stigma around special education. If you're gifted, you don't see yourself as a part of that population. So I think if we want to really call out gifted learners, then we would want to put an and gifted learners. That would be really helpful. And IEPs do exist in preschool. And so it would support preschool communities as well.
Thank you.
So I know we have a motion on the table. We also have first and a second. First by Chair Gunnar-Shire and the second by Commissioner Simmons. And I believe that the motion is for the commission to adopt the proposed revised 2024 California standards for the teaching profession, the CSTPs, as presented, with some friendly amendments to have inclusive language of students with disabilities as a possibility, and also to include IEPs, to have some kind of inclusive with EL with roadmaps, and to have discussion in regards to timelines and the implementation of CSTPs. Did I get that? And supports.
As the maker of the motion, I just want to clarify that we include students with disabilities and gifted students, that we not wrap up the timeline and the implementation. That's not part of the motion. That is a recommendation to the staff to come back to us.
Thank you for the clarification.
Do you accept that, Mr. Second?
I accept that, with the second part being a strong recommendation.
Strong recommendation. Okay, any further discussion? Will the recording secretary call for the vote? Each member please respond with aye, nay, or abstain.
Bennett Brown.
Aye.
Jose Cardenas.
Aye.
Juan Cruz.
Aye.
Cheryl Carter.
Aye.
Christopher Davis.
Aye.
Makita Gwynno-Shire.
Aye.
Megan Gross.
Aye.
Johanna Harwick.
Aye.
Susan Aradia.
Aye.
Monica Martinez.
Aye.
David Simmons.
Aye.
Fang Yuzo.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Mendoza, Ms. Sacramento, Ms. Kristen Cruz Allen. Really appreciate all the hard work that went into this, and thank you again. So this now moves us to our last Educator Preparation Committee item for today. It's item 4C, the review of the passing score standards for the California subject examinations for teachers in art, multiple subjects, and music, CSET Art, CSET MS Subject 3, and CSET Music. This item is being presented by Mike Taylor. This is an action item. Mr. Taylor, will you please begin?
All right. Good morning, commissioners. It's nice to sort of be there with you again today. This item describes the standard setting review workshops that we recently held for some of our more recently revised CSET examinations, specifically in art, multiple subjects, subtest 3 only, and CSET music. And it provides some new recommendations for updated passing score standards for each of the subtests of those examinations based on the recommendations from the CSET standard setting panels. Now, you'll recall that I've been coming here talking to you every once in a while for a number of years now about the revisions we've been doing for our CSET arts examinations. And this group of 3 examinations that we're talking about today represents the last of the 3 CSET examinations. We had 5 that were updated total based on the State Board of Education adoption in 2019 of the California Art Standards for public school and public school students. And we've been working with our testing contractor, the Evaluation Systems Group of Pearson, to redevelop those subject matter requirements and redevelop those examinations to bring them into alignment with those new public school student standards. As you know, we have a very long process for developing new CSET exams, and that process is listed in your agenda item on page 2. And we've completed this whole process for all of these examinations, and we're sort of at an end, a little bit past the end of this list of what we normally do with examinations. The examinations that we're talking about here became operational in November of 2022. So they've been out there for a little while since they were revised, and people have been taking them, and there is a current minimum passing standard that exists already for these examinations. If you look on page 5 of your item, you can see what the current pass rates are for each of these subtests. And table 4 will show you the number of examinees that have taken these examinations since they became operational in 2022, and shows the percent passing for each of the subtests based on the currently existing minimum passing standards that were set for these exams in late 2022 by the commission. You can see in table 5 pass rates based on the current minimum passing standards for these exams by race and ethnicity where available. And some of these exams are fairly low incidence. So there weren't, if there weren't 10 people available in a group, then the pass rates for that group are not reported here. The current minimum passing standard for each of these exams that all those pass rates in table 4 and 5 are based on came from the original standard setting workshops that we had for these exams in September and October of 22. Now, there's a long explanation in the agenda item about what standard setting is and how it works, so I won't belabor that right at this moment. But we did go through that process it's a content-based process that we went through with the committees back in 22, and we brought those recommendations to the commission at the October and December 22 meetings. And the commission decided to adopt the panel's recommended cut scores at that time and made an adjustment for standard error measurement, which we'll talk about a little bit in a minute. But at that time, when these current minimum passing standards for these exams were adopted, the commission felt like there wasn't a lot of data, especially for some of these exams, the low incidence ones, music and art. Those standards were set before the exams had even been administered to some students, and it's based on a content-based process as described in the item. So at that time, when those minimum passing standards for these exams were established, the commission asked us to come back after a year or so with some more data, after some more people had taken the exams and we had an idea of how the items were performing and all of that information. And so we did. And so we held some additional workshops with panels of California educators in September and October of 2023, just a few months ago. And we call this the standard setting review workshop, and the results of that are what we're really here to talk about. But it's essentially an abbreviated version of the standard setting process that was conducted for these exams originally. And so the panelists go through a lot of the same content-based activities as the original standard setting panels, but they're aware the whole time that there is a current passing standard and what that passing standard is. And so what they're doing in a lot of ways is sort of reevaluating the reasonableness of that existing passing standard against, all the information we have available up to the minute, which is what the commission asked us to do. So the results of these standard setting studies, the standard setting review meetings are shown in table 6 of the agenda item. So you can see for each subtest, and each item type within each subtest. So all of our CSET subtests, not all the subtests, but all of our exams contain both multiple choice and constructed response items. And so as part of the process, the panels look at those separately and make recommendations for each. You can see here the total raw score points in each subtest for each of those sections. And then there's the last 2 columns show the original panel recommended cut score from 2022, and then the updated recommended cut score based on the work of the more recent panels looking at this. Now, one thing that we always discuss with you when we talk about standard setting is standard error of measurement. Again, there's a long explanation of that in the item and in the appendix, so I won't belabor it too much, but standard error of measurement is basically a measure of variance. It's a calculated value for each of the subtests. And we all know that not everybody does their best job on an exam every time they take the exam. So the standard error of measurement acts as an estimation of value of what the variance may be between what we call a candidate's true score, which is their ability to demonstrate all their content knowledge as perfectly as possible under ideal circumstances, and what we call their observed score, which is the score they actually got when they took the test. And so we know not everybody can always, maybe you didn't have breakfast, maybe you're stressed out and distracted by things going on in life, and not everybody's always able to demonstrate, as effectively as they possibly can their content knowledge in an examination situation. So to help account for that, what the commission can consider is making a standard error of measurement adjustment to the minimum passing standard for each of these exams. And table 7 shows some intact data based on what may happen with standard error of measurement. So in table 7, you can see here for each subtest, the number of examinees who've taken each of them so far, and some of them have more examinees than others. And then it shows potential passing rates based on the panel's recommended cut score for the latest workshops, which is on the farthest right column of the table. And then what those pass rates would be for each of these potential SEM adjustments, starting at -1/2 and going up to -2 SEM. Now, we have to tell you that the small numbers of examinees, particularly here for music and art, who've taken some of these subtests, it makes it difficult to generalize the impact of these exams on future groups of examinees. So our statistics here on our commission exams are all what we call sample dependent. So they're based on these exact examinees in each of these groups. So, in some cases you can think you can believe that it'll translate to a similar group of examinees. For example, if we look at multiple subject subtest 3, 8,900 examinees is a pretty good sample, but it's a little bit more difficult with the smaller samples to be able to generalize what These tables show to what may happen with a future population, since they're based entirely on the actual individuals in each population. One thing to consider also, in addition, when you're looking at your decision here, is that the pass rates are probably going to increase over time. The subject matter requirements that these exams measure are still relatively new, and we almost always see pass rates for newer exams go up over time as examinees become more familiar with the subject matter requirements. There's a lot more information in Appendix C about potential pass rates based on SEM adjustments, especially relating to gender, race, and ethnicity. And for each of these subtests, there's 2 for art, 1 multiple subjects. It's just subtest 3 there that was updated, and the 2 music subtests. They each have their own panel recommended passing score, and the commission can apply the same SEM adjustment to all of them or a separate SEM adjustment to each of them. And that's really up to the commission to decide. But staff does recommend that the commission adopt the panel recommended cut score and apply an SEM adjustment of -1.5 to each of those panel recommended cut scores for each subtest. And if the commission adopts a new minimum passing standards for these exams today, then those will be applied to future administrations of these exams. And I'm happy to take questions you might have about it.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or by clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom or pressing *9 if participating by phone. There is a 2-minute limit timer for those who would like to make a public comment. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
There are no requests for public comment.
All right, the public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have questions or comments on this item? Commissioner Simmons? I'm sorry, I was looking at Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Hartwig.
Well, Commissioner Simmons, we're in good company. We're starting to look like twins, apparently. Yeah. Anyway, I just had a general statement, and I wanted to say thank you again for this robust report and the presentation. And this is not a comment directed toward you at all in general, but when I make this comment, there are considerations that we make when we are looking at cut scores. We're looking at and requirements for passing rates. But the one thing that we don't look at in general, and I'm not just talking about as a commission, and I'm just talking about people in general, is generational traumas that cause people to not do well on tests. The misnomer about, oh, I didn't have coffee this morning, that's why I didn't do well on that test. Okay, well, that maybe that's a possibility, but the fact that I'm African American, been disadvantaged, didn't have access to test prep, and a lot of other things that may affect me as an individual are often overlooked when it comes to establishing cut rates and minimum scores. So I'm glad that we're moving kind of in the direction where we're trying to equal the playing field. And I don't necessarily know if this is the way to do that technically, but it's a step. And I think that, you know, as a commission, when we talk about implicit bias, we talk about breaking down barriers and opening up opportunities for others. Again, high stakes assessments, you all know how I feel about them because I have stated this every single time something comes up with an assessment, that the scores are disproportionately in favor of certain demographic groups. And you can see the disparities in some of the other groups as indicated in the data. Thank you very much for listening.
Commissioner Hartwig.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you for this thorough item. I'm going to support the recommendation of accepting the recommended cut scores with the, I think the recommendation is the 1.5 SEM, but I was just hoping for a little bit more insight and understanding into the changes between the recommended cut score from the original panel in 2022 and the updated cut score recommendation in 2023, just because there is quite a dramatic change in the recommendations for a couple of the tests between that time, particularly the art subtest 1 and the multiple subject subtest 3, the multiple choice version, when each of those changed, reduced by 4 points, and most all of the others changed, but by fewer points. So I was just interested in a little more insight about the discussion that went into the pretty major change within a year. Was it being able to take into account the impact data? Or anyway, if you could just illuminate me a little bit about why there was such a big change for particularly a few of those areas.
I think you got it. I think that the big difference is that, especially for art and music, that this time around there was impact data that was not available for the initial standard setting workshop. So the way that both of the standard setting workshops work is it's very content focused. So the panelists get into the mindset of a new teacher, for example. So they take the test, they study the subject matter requirements and think about the ways the test questions measure the subject matter requirement, and think about the job requirements of a beginning teacher and what they need to have for content knowledge. And they really think about that, and then they discuss it amongst themselves, and then they'll be given a look at some data, like, okay, so in hypothetical situations, here's what some pass rates may look like. And in a lot of cases, the people who were on the panel, in fact, I would guess in almost every case, at least half the people from the original panel also came to the second panel. So a lot of the membership was the same from one panel to the next. And it just reflects sort of a changing of thought after the information was out there and the tests were available for a year. And so they had new people taking them, and they finally got to look at the data on it. And it was really a content-based decision in every case, where they just looked at the way that these tests measure the specific content required for each of those credentials. And they just thought that when it comes to what a beginning teacher needs to know and be able to do in terms of this content knowledge on day one, which is their hypothetical line as they go through these workshops, they just slightly adjusted their findings. And it wasn't, I should also say that this isn't a process where the group decides, oh, we're going to change it 2 points. All of the numbers here are based on averages of individual recommendations from the group. So some people in the group changed their mind, and the average of the entire group's recommendations came out a couple of points different from the previous group. I don't know if that helps answer.
Thank you. That's yes, that helps a lot answer it. And then I just have one process question, which is, I know that we specifically requested that you bring this back to us after a year to look again at the cut score and the SEM. Can you just remind me, is there a periodic time at which we then re-review cut scores and SEMs moving forward if this is adopted? Or just could you just remind me how that works? Or is this just in it then for forever?
In general, it differs from one exam to the next, but in general, the minimum passing standards for the exams generally get updated one time when we update the exams. So whenever the exams get updated based on new content standards, then we go through the entire development process outlined in the item, and the commission will adopt a standard, and usually that's it for the life of that particular exam. Now, for some low incidence exams, and in this particular case, like I said, the commission has asked us to come back after a year, and we've done that several times now, particularly with these exams. And the commission certainly has the ability to do that whenever you want, but it's really been a case-by-case basis. So there isn't an interim schedule between redeveloping exams that we update the cut scores. It doesn't mean there couldn't be, but honestly, really in this case, we feel like at this point, so when we came to you when these exams were new. For some of them, there wasn't really any impact data available because they're such low incident exams. Now that we're in it, especially so, we look at the number of people who've taken multiple subjects. Subtest 3 gives us a real indication of how those items for the portion of that exam that was updated are going to perform and how people are going to perform on that. So with that, we don't feel like there's really a need to revisit that anytime soon, because I think we've got a good indication of how that's going. And I mean, after today, obviously. And for the lower incidence exams, we honestly don't feel like we're like the number of people who take those exams is low enough that even if you said come back in another year, I just don't think there'd be enough new information to really make the whole process worthwhile, if that makes any sense. So at this point, we feel like we're probably good with these exams for a while if the commission uses the information available to adopt a new cut score. But so we don't have an interim schedule, but we can, the commission has the authority to revisit this whenever they want.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Commissioner Heredia?
Yes, Mr. Taylor, thank you very much for this report. I just remember a year ago, kind of struggling with, what I always call it, kind of that margin of error, what that should be. And so appreciative of that, that you guys came up with 1.5. You answered my question, about some of these low incidents, like, the African-American, when you look at art and you look at, just sometimes between, I'm looking at table 5, sorry. When you look at, the scores between, on the music, African-American, Asian, and there's a big discrepancy there in some of those. And so, I'm just going to be curious over time. Is it, obviously it's exposure, what people bring to the table already that sort of helps them get through exams. Yeah. As sort of referenced with Commissioner Davis said also about, how they are with tests. But I am going to be interested to see over time. And I agree with you that we may not get enough data because of the low number of, candidates that are taking some of these exams. I always want to just kind of get to the root of everything. But I think in this case, we just kind of have to be patient to see what it is. Is it kind of exposure before you take the exam to the field, to the knowledge? Is it the fact that in the universities, it's new for them, and the content, they may be struggling with the content themselves or the standards themselves in order to help the students pass the test. I think that's another viable, option to consider for some of these test scores. So anyway, thank you for this report. And I too support the 1.5. Thank you.
The good news is that watching this over time will be pretty easy. We do our annual report, as you know, on all of the examinations, including CSETs, and these will be included with all of the data, pass rates, and everything by gender, race, and ethnicity every year going forward. So the commission will continue to have eyes on that all the time.
Thank you.
Commissioner Klein?
I just want to say thank you for bringing this as we focus on teacher recruitment. I think that this is a big piece. Being able to have these high stakes tests be accessible to more of our candidates, I think is very important. So I appreciate that. I do just want to be mindful of maintaining high expectations, standards for our teachers, our folks who are coming into the profession as well. So that rigor, it's a balance between rigor and accessibility, and it shouldn't be one or the other. And so I just want to raise that and make sure that we're still mindful of that as well. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? To Liaison Wicks.
Yeah, thank you for this information. And I think especially having had to take like 6 of these tests for the credential, having the SEM in place, I think will provide a lot of, like you were saying, access, but we do want to keep the rigor for the students. So I think it is an interesting topic to go over. However, I do just want to speak or make this statement again, just how having this in place, I can see as being a positive, because it can eliminate the extra burden of having to retest, especially going through Pearson and, like, scheduling a time between your busy schedule to find a time that works to go to the Pearson office, or even find the time to do it online. I think having this SEM in place, especially 1.5, I think I need to do further research to see how like big of a difference that really is that 1.5 like point is really saying like, oh no, they're not like, competent in that area. But I think especially in regards if they have coursework or real like world experience or even degrees that match that subtest, I think this can be a really really helpful to get more students within the teaching program. Thank you.
Any other commissioners? Looks like our chair would like to make a motion. This is an action item. So the motion, there is a motion to adopt the standard settings review panel's recommendation minimum passing standards for each subtest for the CSET art, CSET multiple subjects, subject 3, and CSET music exams, and the commission apply a 1.5 SEM adjustment to each of the panel recommended cut scores.
So moved.
Is there a second? Did I not say a negative 1.5? Sorry, with a negative 1.5 SEM adjustment. Commissioner Hartwig seconds. Any further discussion? Will the recording secretary call for the vote? Each member please respond with aye, nay, or abstain.
Lynette Brown,
Aye.
Jose Cardenas,
Aye.
Cheryl Copton,
Aye.
Juan Cruz, Christopher Davis,
Aye.
Makita Quino Shire,
Aye.
Megan Gross,
Aye.
Johanna Harwick,
Aye.
Susan Aradia,
Aye.
Monica Martinez,
Aye.
David Simmons,
Aye.
Fang Yuzoff,
Aye.
Juan Cruz.
Abstain.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I really appreciate you revisiting this with us a year later. At this time, I have no additional items today. I recess the Educator Preparation Committee until tomorrow.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardenas. Colleagues, I would like to ask your forbearance and convene the Professional Practices Committee before we break for lunch. Okay, I'm seeing smiles and head nods, so thank you. Okay. I need to get there. Hang on one second.
Good afternoon. I now convene the Professional Practices Committee. The committee has one item today. Item 5A is the Division of Professional Practices Workload Report. Rachel Gritzofi will present this item. Ms. Gritzofi, will you please begin?
Thank you, Commissioner. Good afternoon, Commissioners. You're well aware that this report will only take a couple minutes, which is why they really want to get this done before lunch. So I can help with that. This is the Division of Professional Practices Workload Report. The standard introduction updates on the Commission's Division of Professional Practices workload are presented to the Commission to provide insight into the scope and level of work in the area of educator discipline. This report covers the period of October through December of 2023 in comparison to the same period last year. The Commission's dashboards report on 6 key measurements in line graph form, showing both current year numbers as well as prior year numbers for comparison purposes. The total cases are the number of open cases within DPP, including cases in our intake unit, for the Committee of Credentials, pending before the Commission, and pending administrative hearing. At the end of December, DPP's caseload was at 2,880 cases. With the current increase in application submissions, the data is trending toward a continued increase of workload in DPP. Cases opened are new cases opened during the month from all sources, including criminal arrest notices, district reports, affidavits, and educators who self-report misconduct. While DPP opened 311 cases in December, the average number of cases opened through the first half of fiscal year 23-24 was 324. The initial review and formal review charts reflect the number of cases reviewed by the committee at its normal 3-day meeting in December. This 2-step review process is required by statute. The initial review cases in December totaled 77. While the goal is 90 cases at the initial review each month, DPP continues to expect the number to fluctuate as cases move through the committee process. Cases closed is the number of matters closed by commission action, committee action, or closed by staff where the commission is given formal delegation of authority. For example, are single offense alcohol offenses that do not involve schools, minors, or publicity. In December, 307 cases were closed, which is lower than the normal monthly average of 446 established in the fiscal year 22-23. AG cases refers to cases which an educator requests an administrative hearing to challenge the recommendation for discipline made by the committee. An administrative hearing is an evidentiary proceeding where an administrative law judge hears and rules on the evidence. The commission is represented in these hearings by the Office of the Attorney General. The number of cases where the AG is representing the commission is shown in our final graph. The number of cases currently at the administrative hearing stage is 179. DPP is committed to work that is critical to public service and the commission's mission, and DPP continues to maintain a steady case production while at the same time ensuring quality case preparation for the committee. Thank you. I can answer any questions now.
Thank you, Ms. Ritzafi. We will now open for public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to give a presentation, please notify the meeting moderator by submitting a request card or clicking on the raise hand icon if participating through Zoom, or pressing *9 if participating by phone. Recording secretary, are there any public comments?
We have no public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you. Seeing as there are no public comments, the public comment period for this item is now closed. Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Okay, I'll take my prerogative there as chair. It doesn't look like there are any other questions for this very clear report. I know that you said that this item will just take a few minutes, but I do just want to reflect that even though this item only takes usually a very short amount of time each meeting, it is truly, as you say in your conclusion, reflective of the work that is critical to public service and the Commission's mission, as this is the public's opportunity to see one of the 3 pillars of the Commission's work, which is the disciplinary work, along with the 2 pillars that we see more publicly, the accreditation and credentialing work. So I really appreciate the opportunity to look at these at each meeting, and for how clearly your workload is presented. I have just one question. When you look at the cases closed numbers, we do see a pretty dramatic difference between, October, November, December in 2022 to October, November, December in this year, with the 2022 numbers being significantly higher. Is that reflective of, was there a surge? Can you remind me, was there a surge during that period of post-lockdown cases coming, or can you just remind us of why there might be a pretty big difference between those numbers and the numbers now?
Traditionally, the numbers balance based on timeline. So when commission has a big month, and then the 30-day timer for commission is final and the adverse actions represented are concluded, our cases closed moves up generally. So the timing for these will be slightly based on those cases that move through not only commission, cases that were able to close, like the single offense alcohol cases. It's a variety of issues. Well, I shouldn't say issues, but a variety of reasons why our totals will fluctuate and move month to month. So if we're able to push cases in a sense on the committee's consent calendar, but they're not ready to move because they're not jurisdictional, then those cases have to wait until the next month. And it just is a cyclical process. So I don't have a specific reason why those numbers are different between 22 and 23, other than that it's just based on the cycle timeline.
Thank you for that explanation. I was very happy to hear in Executive Director Sandy's intro that I think that you've hired 3 new people in DPP. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, DPP is fully staffed, management is fully staffed, and we have another manager returning from leave in 2 weeks, and we'll be completely staffed with all bodies in the building. So that's a very big relief for our team.
Okay, excellent. Well, that anticipates my question I like to ask each time, which is whether you think that the staffing and the resources you have are adequate to keep up the pace that is expected of your department.
Yes, the pace that we're keeping now and the initial review cases at 77, that was a training period where we acknowledged that we would drop a little bit and that we were encouraged by their training processes. And starting in January, that goal of 90 would be kept up. I'm happy to present that while you can't see that number right now, we did hit 90 for January. So we're focused on those goals that we have to keep up the workload. Right now, we have the staffing in place to present all the records and applications that are coming in the door. We know that the applications rose significantly this calendar year, and we've expected that, and we're prepared.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. Thanks very much. Just checking to see if any other commissioners have questions or comments before we close this item. Okay. This is an information item and no action is needed. Thank you, Ms. Kritzofi. And please convey our thanks to your team.
Thank you.
This concludes the business before the Professional Practices Committee. The committee is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hartwig. I will now recess the general session. Members of the commission will go into closed session. The general session will reconvene tomorrow morning at 8:30. Colleagues, I would like to suggest, I'm really trying your patience today, that we go grab lunch and bring it back, if we might, and begin closed session at 1:15, if that works. We have, as you've seen, we have a very full closed session. Thank you.